Wow, good Wednesday parade day afternoon on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you from 3 to 6 this afternoon. Thank you so much for stopping by and being a part of our afternoon and letting us be a part of your afternoon. It was championship parade day in Kansas City. It was a lot. It was very funny, very enjoyable. Patrick Mahomes probably has no idea where he is. He might not remember this day one bit once it comes to a close. Same can probably be said for Travis Kelce and probably everyone else who's up on the stage.
Several other members of the Kansas City Chiefs will have light beer-soaked memories of this one. There's no doubt about it.
Very funny to have Patrick Mahomes speak first, have Mitch Holthus close it down, and then Mahomes grabbed the mic back and said, "We're going to turn up tonight, Kansas City." I don't think there was any doubt about that at any point.
The turn up has been ongoing.
We will talk some Chiefs. We will talk about the parade and some of the highlights from it coming up here in just a matter of moments to lead things off. Also this hour, we'll play some One Gotta Go, and we'll talk to our Wendy's High School Athletes of the Week, Madison Freeland from Shawnee Heights and Jackson Cowden from Topeka High. That's coming up later on this hour. Also today, we do have plenty of college basketball to get to. K-State, we need to have a talk. We need to have a sit-down, heart-to-heart talk about what the hell's going on in Manhattan. We will discuss that coming up at 4 o'clock today. Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour to try to make some sense of the, can we call it a meltdown?
No.
No? Okay.
I think meltdown is too strong. I think slump is
okay
as far as I'm willing to go.
All right.
A funk.
Perhaps we'll get Fitz's adjective for it.
A deep funk. Yeah. Tim Fitzgerald will definitely be as colorful as the FCC will allow in describing it in whatever words he chooses. But yeah, I'm still leaning towards slump and funk more so than meltdown, because the implication is that if you're melting down, then you're like melting down would be losing to awful teams at home. They're losing to the bad teams in this league on the road, which is in and of itself like not the same as if you're a Big Ten contender and you're losing to the bottom of that league on the road.
All right.
Or you're losing the bottom of the Big East on the road, or you're losing the bottom of the Pac-12 on the road, because all these teams are good.
Yeah.
Like, Oklahoma hadn't won a league game in a month, but they also 30-piece the number one team in the country in that same time frame.
Yeah.
Like, they're not some bums. They were going in the wrong direction, and it looked like Kansas State had an opportunity to tip them off a cliff. And through 20 minutes of basketball, I thought that was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, well, we got some different theories on what's going on with Kansas State in the broad scheme, and we will get to those.
Yeah, we'll get to that coming up at 4 o'clock. And again, the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap up with Tim Fitzgerald, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also talk some KU coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today, because for as tough as that game was for K-State in Norman, KU had a great win in Stillwater. Is that a truly great Oklahoma State team? No, but that is a place where KU has had plenty of struggles over the years down at Bill Self's alma mater and America's favorite wrestling gymnasium. But they've been playing really well. 5 wins in a row going into last night, and KU beat them by double digits in a game that was fun, competitive, and about as well put together as KU has looked on both ends in quite a while. Kind of weird to say that the defense played pretty well in a game where they allowed the other team to shoot 50% from the floor, but I'll argue for that was actually a pretty strong defensive effort, at least in the second half. So that's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. We will get to KU versus Oklahoma State and what's next for KU, the biggest game of the year coming up on Saturday at Allen Fieldhouse, KU versus Baylor. Also today, we'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Of course, we'll play What Is Wrong With You and so much more coming up on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to be a part of the show as well. 785-272-9429 is the Big O Tires text line number. And, of course, the YouTube comment section is open as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our YouTube channel. Shout out to Vance, already in the comment section, lauding you for remembering to wear a hat today.
Thank you. I did. I forgot one yesterday, but I'm back today in honor of pitchers and catchers reporting. We've gone with the purple Rockies lid for me today.
I'm actually kind of excited for baseball this year, I think. I am.
I'm trying to get there.
Yeah.
I'm having a harder time getting there than I usually do, but I will get there eventually. It's just taking a little more time.
The product in Major League Baseball is just so uneven, like team to team. And I mean, I'm more excited this year than I was certainly last year, or even the year before, because my team actually decided, what if we had good players and not bad players? And surprise, that actually is encouraging. That makes you think, maybe I would like to watch a competitive team as opposed to an awful team. Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a team that, I don't know, has a clueless owner and did not maybe add a lot of good players and maybe didn't have many before, I can understand why you maybe wouldn't be so interested.
Who might you be talking about, Brendan?
Certainly no one. I feel like Montfort is a four-letter word at this point, so I don't want to I don't want to push you over the edge too soon.
I'll get there. I will. It's just obviously, Chiefs making a Super Bowl championship run and Big 12 basketball being as good as it's been means that I haven't had any time for my mind to like wander to baseball mode, which sometimes happens during the the winter and even sometimes in the late fall. But no, we'll get there. We'll get there over the course of time. Royals did a thing today, signed Franmil Reyes to a minor league deal.
Yes, I in fact had that pulled up right here. Franmil Reyes is kind of fun.
I kind of love that for them.
I do too.
Like crowded outfield picture, but and he's probably really just a DH. But Franmil Reyes, when he hits them, they stay hit. Maybe he's not the right profile for Kauffman Stadium, but like that's a little thunder they could maybe use in their lineup a little bit. Like I'd rate him over Eduardo Olivares in the outfield. Like
I'd say so.
I'd rather play Reyes out there.
He had a real good end of last season with the Cubs.
He did.
And look, sometimes you have a low risk, low, medium, high reward signing. This is a no risk signing. This is a minor league deal with a non-roster invite to spring training. If it works out, hey, that's a piece that may actually be something for you. And if not, whatever. It really does not mean anything at that point.
30 bombs in the AL Central 2 years ago. Like,
yeah,
I think there could be something there. Maybe Kansas City's place where he can resurrect his career a little bit.
He's an easy guy to root for. Guys who hit really long home runs generally are. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing if maybe he can pan out. Yeah, with the Cubs last year, 48 games, hit 5 home runs. Didn't hit for much average, but he never really has. So, worth a flyer.
Yeah, down year for him last year, but I'm legitimately intrigued by the possibilities.
Good for you. Royals did something that is at the very least intriguing on the day that pitchers and catchers report. We'll talk more baseball coming up over the next couple days, couple weeks, obviously, as spring training gets into full swing.
I can't think of a bigger sports news story out of Kansas City today than Franmil Reyes signed to a minor league deal. Can you?
There might be one potential bigger story. That is Patrick Mahomes going to Neptune. He was so drunk. It was championship parade day down in Kansas City. You heard the audio from the rally at Kansas City Union Station right here on 580 WIBW during Mic'd Up earlier on today. That looked like a blast. I'm sure people who were there were freezing cold. It's not quite as cold today, or in Kansas City, at least it's not as it was back in February of 2020, when Jake will tell you all about when he went to the parade and he was freezing his buns off. It didn't look especially pleasant out there, though, and people were lined up, man, at 6 a.m. The parade didn't start till noon, and there were people out there at 6 a.m. setting up chairs on Grand Boulevard right in front of the T-Mobile Center. I've been to championship parades before. I've been to 2. In fact, I was at one for the Chicago Blackhawks, and I went to the Cubs parade as well in 2016, which was, one of the best sports-related moments of my entire life, being there to celebrate, wow, this team actually finally won a championship. So I understand the desire to go out and have some fun and enjoy a parade. Who doesn't love a parade? Man, 6 a.m. for something that doesn't start for another 6 hours. That is a different breed than I would possibly be prepared for. But it was a blast. I mean, you got to see Mitch Holthus getting all fired up. They played highlights from the game with Mitch's call over it. Of course, we'll talk to Mitch tomorrow to wrap up the Super Bowl championship for the Chiefs. Mahomes was sauced. They brought Nick Bolton out for a hot second to chat. It almost felt like he wasn't really aware that he was going to speak because he was all the way in the back of the crowd.
Nick Bolton uses the word man like it's a comma.
Yeah.
In the spoken, like, and it's not, I'm not just saying that because he did that in a parade setting. Like, if you watched him on SportsCenter the night of the Super Bowl, he went on with, he did a hit with Scott Van Pelt, and it was the same. This is the same speech pattern, man, where everything he punctuates, man, you can just really tell that, man, he's really talking, and then he says, man, like it's a comma in the sentence, man. And that's just how Nick Bolton talks when he talks. So I appreciated that. He got a bunch of people who might not actually be Mizzou fans to give him an MIZ, which might have been the most impressive thing about the whole parade.
I wouldn't have done that. If I had been a Chiefs fan and had gone to the parade, I would not have done that. That you Missouri fans can have that one for yourself.
And then Travis Kelce took the stage with a Bud Light chain that looked like it cost a lot of money.
Look, I don't drink, period. I don't drink beer, never had a Bud Light. I kind of want that chain. That was awesome. That was so good.
And the white on white, like he was in a Beastie Boys video from the Paul's Boutique era.
Fittingly.
And quoting Master P and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Ric Flair. There was just, you could tell who his influences were. As no moment in the speech as good as the time in 2020 when he did a shout out to all the World War I veterans out there, which is still one of the funniest things I've ever heard anyone say out loud in my life. But still, a great performance by Kelce on the mic. If he wanted to, he could be WWE champion within a year. Like if that was something he decided he wanted to pivot to, he could be the most compelling man in sports entertainment.
I'm sure they've called. Like, I'm sure he has gotten a call from Triple H, Paul Levesque at some point and said, you know what? Hold on. I got some juice left for this football thing, but, call me back in 2027 and we'll see how that goes. Now, he is incredible on the mic. I thought Andy Reid, who doesn't love Andy Reid? The only beef I had, we've got to cut some of the chaff off here from these Super Bowl parades. Like, look, I'm not going to say anything about the political elements of like the party of the governor of Missouri. I don't care about that kind of thing. I don't also care about the governor of Missouri speaking at the parade.
Yeah, I don't think we need to hear him talk. Clark Hunt had the mic for entirely too long.
Yeah, shouting out everybody. Thank you to the grounds crew for the great field at GEHA Field.
The parking lot attendants at Arrowhead Stadium are such a big part of our game day experience, and I want to thank them all by name, alphabetically. Like, come on, man.
Let's thank every player on the practice squad. Oh, what would we have done without Cornell Powell this year? No, come on, man. You do not need to speak that much for that long. Happy birthday, Mark Donovan, I guess. Like cool.
If you'd gotten the fans to sing to him, that would have been a nice moment, but he did not need to speak. Like the fact that we heard from more front office as many front office members as players, or check that. We did hear from 4 players, but only because Chris Jones bum rushed Mitch Holthus before Mitch was about to wrap up the parade for the first time. And otherwise, we would have heard from exactly as many front office members as we would have heard from players. And that's not who people are there to hear from. We should have heard from more players. We should give Juju the mic. Let him make a TikTok in the middle of the championship parade while he's giving a speech.
Everybody put your hands up for our championship TikTok. Let's bring out Juju and Jackson Mahomes. And they'll
lean into it. If they're gonna call you TikTok boy anyway, you may as well lean into it.
Yeah. What
crumping? Yeah.
I couldn't remember the name of that.
Let's all do the bump.
Right. Any of y'all know the Tootsie Roll? Put this on TikTok tonight. Like that could have done that. I would have loved to have heard from an offensive line. Like, I bet you Creed would have had some wild things to say. Creed probably had about a 24-pack on his own. Andrew Wiley. Give me anyone else. I don't need to hear from Mark Donovan. I don't. I'm sure Mark Donovan is a great guy, great at his job, awesome. Brett Veach got it. They brought Brett Veach out. I can understand why that guy would talk. He got through it pretty quickly. He said, yeah, thanks. You fans are so great. Love these players. Love Coach Reed. Okay, bye. He got the gist of it.
Right.
Get up, get out. Clark Hunt, he's not quite in the Bob Bowlesby category of electrifying.
He's got a real assistant principal vibe to him, giving public speeches.
Saying no to drugs is cool, guys. Kind of how it feels.
Yeah, I don't know. Personally, if I'm at a championship parade, the guys I'm there to hear from are the players. And I was surprised we heard from so few players. Maybe that was scripted. Chris Jones bum rushing Mitch Holthus there at the end. Maybe we'll ask Mitch about it tomorrow. But they were really gonna not give the mic to Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if every player was there. I think most of them were. I don't think we have somebody from the Big O Tires text line asked how many players were actually there. And I don't think too many players miss that. Even players that are ready to, go back home, see family, maybe take a vacation. You still want to be part of that parade.
For sure.
Those parades generally have pretty close to 100% attendance. But like we couldn't get Frank Clark on the mic for 90 seconds. We couldn't get, Isaiah Pacheco to talk.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying those are great speakers, but I would have loved, even if it's like Andrew Wiley going, come on, baby. Yeah, baby. Let's go. That's how we like it. Yeah, baby. Like, I'd rather have that than 5 minutes of Clark Hunt.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But overall, exciting, entertaining. I enjoyed the parade. I really did. So what's next? Like, just in a general sense, I mean, we will talk over the next couple of weeks about, like, literally for the football franchise, like, what is next coming up? What do you for the draft? What do you do in free agency? Who's coming back? Do you pay Juju what he's owed? And he might be the highest paid wide receiver in free agency this year, which is good for him, but also, oh my God, wide receiver free agency is so bad this year. The next best receiver is either Jacoby Myers or Alan Lazard. Like, those are your three best wide receivers in free agency. It's bad. So we'll get to the serious team stuff next. But, like, are we going to see Patrick Mahomes on TV or Travis Kelce on TV every day for the next month? We might.
Somebody suggested, it might have been Randy Jazerli. I forget who it was on Twitter. I think it was Randy, who suggested it's time for Patrick Mahomes to host Saturday Night Live. And I know that Saturday Night Live does not hold the place in the American zeitgeist that it once did. That it's not something that most people check for in the way that they used to. It is one of those shows now that you don't really experience live because you don't have to. Like, if anything's good, if anything hits the monoculture from it, you probably saw it on YouTube, and nothing really does. But, like, if you're a Chiefs fan and you hear Patrick Mahomes is hosting Saturday Night Live, you're checking that out, right?
Of course you are.
Because he's probably bringing Travis Kelce.
I would think so.
But, yeah, like, I do. I think that we are going to see, now that they've done it twice and certified themselves in that way as, superstars on a national scale. Yeah, I think we do. We probably see more Mahomes, more Kelce. And I'm all for that. Like, I think so. Hosting Saturday Night Live is a great idea for those guys.
Yeah,
like, they should do it. I'd watch it.
Make an appearance on something. I'm sure they'll be in TV shows. I'm sure they'll be all over the place. Do you know the last athlete to host SNL?
Oh gosh, was it Peyton Manning?
It was not Peyton Manning. No. We have to go all the way back to 2020.
Peyton's done it more than once.
Yes,
I believe.
I believe you are correct about that.
2020.
This must be, maybe Peyton has done it more recently than this. But yeah, 2020 is the last one I have listed here. Last first-time host, at least.
Barkley?
Not Charles Barkley, J.J. Watt.
J.J. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was J.J. Watt and Luke Combs was a musical guest. It was not a great episode.
I kind of like Luke Combs, but that's like a very middle America episode of SNL.
Yes. Very narrow appeal to the J.J. Watt, Luke Combs episode.
Yeah. Eli Manning has done it. Michael Phelps, Braun's been on there. Peyton Manning did his with Carrie Underwood.
I think Eli Manning hosted.
Yeah, Eli did it. Brady has done it before. But yeah, they don't have athletes a lot. But like, you're at a point where Mahomes has kind of hit that threshold where he's bigger than just football player at this point. And I think
passes the grandma test, like we
he
talked
does.
about.
Oh yeah,
like
does.
Your grandma knows who Patrick Mahomes is.
How many other does Kelce do that?
I don't think so. Tight ends, I don't think can. Maybe Gronk does.
Yeah, he's everywhere now.
Yeah, because Gronk's all over the place. I don't ever see Travis Kelce being like in insurance commercials.
No, probably not. I can see him in beer commercials.
Yeah.
I can see him doing that. He also did have a reality show.
Yeah, he did.
People forget Catching Kelce.
You know who else I bet wishes he could forget Catching Kelce? Travis Kelce.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. How many NFL players pass that in general?
How many active NFL players are
NFL players.
The kind of famous that I think that Patrick Mahomes is? I think Aaron Rodgers passes that test, although
good or bad, yes.
Yeah, I think I think he's done some damage to his image I still think he's that kind of famous where like, it basically it's like the could they host Saturday Night Live test. And yes, Tom Brady is retired. JJ Watt is retired. They both literally done it. You are probably left with Rodgers, Russell Wilson, probably by association too.
Yeah, he's probably close. I'm not sure there's anyone else who could. You know who could legitimately, because he's like a weird thirst icon on TikTok, is Joe Burrow. Your grandma might not know him, but your girlfriend does. There's a bunch of jokes about that. I've seen these videos. Like your favorite, your girlfriend might say she doesn't know football, but she knows who the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals is.
And you're starting to see like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert in some national commercials, national spots.
Allen's are so bad.
Yeah, he's not a natural actor.
Although one of them, he kind of makes fun. What was it? Chips, Doritos, maybe. He's kind of like making fun of the fact he has to train to be on TV.
I can't decide if Mahomes is like endearingly dorky in that way that like people who aren't like naturally cool are, or if he's secretly really, really funny. He was on Jimmy Kimmel the other night.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you all listening had a chance to either watch that live or, because again, like there's no monoculture. People don't watch the late night talk shows anymore.
No.
People don't watch like when it was Letterman and Leno, right? Like,
right.
It's not, people don't watch that. But maybe you saw the clips on YouTube, or maybe you saw them on social media. Anyway, there's one going around today that Mahomes is kind of getting made fun of for, where Mahomes was talking about the post-game party after they won the Super Bowl, and there were two particular musicians / entertainers there, and he mentioned that the Chainsmokers were there and that DJ Khaled was there, and Mahomes said, "What more could you want? That's both genres of music right there." And either that's like a genuinely like dorky thing to say, or he's being funny, and if he's trying to be funny, then that's hilarious. But I can't tell with him.
Yeah, I can't really tell either. I think there is a dorkiness factor. I really do think
I've had that debate with Abby. I've asked her, like, do you think Patrick Mahomes is like cool,
or is he cool because he's the best quarterback in the NFL?
Right.
I think it is probably the fact that he's a great quarterback, but I think he's sort of like seamlessly moved into being a cool guy. Like, I think one way or the other, he'd be a very likable guy.
Yes.
But I don't think he naturally is like, oh man, he's so cool. I wish I was him. Like, I think he just sort of grew into that.
Like Michael Jordan had that.
Yeah.
And some athletes have that. And it's hard to describe. You have it or you don't, just naturally.
LeBron, speaking of basketball players, both has it and doesn't have it at the exact same time.
That might be the better comparison with Mahomes, honestly, where like very much you could see if they were stripped of their athletic talents, you just see them being like dad.
Yeah.
Like,
you really could.
Like husband and father at the end of the street. And you think, yeah, that guy likes his kids a lot and makes a lot of dorky jokes. Like I get that vibe from LeBron. I think Mahomes is going to age into that as well.
I could see that. His kids, years from now, they're both so small, but they're going to get a kick out of watching video of these parades. Like, Dad, oh my God. I can't believe that. What a blast it was with the parade. Again, you heard that earlier, the audio from it earlier on Mic'd Up. If you did not get to hear it, but you would like to hear the speeches, Travis Kelce pulling out the Master P references, Patrick Mahomes just being blissed out of his mind, you can go find that on our website, 580wibw.com, on the podcast tab. To find our show, hover over podcasts and click on 580 Sports Talk. But to find the audio from the parade today, go to podcasts and then Mic'd Up. And in the final hour of Mic'd Up today, that's where you'll find the audio from today's Chiefs parade. We've got to take our first break here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got some One Gotta Go coming up next and our high school athletes of the week later this hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. It's a championship parade day edition of One Gotta Go here on 580 Sports Talk. Quick round before we get to our high school athletes of the week. Here's my One Gotta Go for today. You get Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Andy Reid. One's gotta go. Who would you least like to party with?
Oh, man. Obviously, Kelce stays. Mahomes and I have the same taste in domestic beers. So it's down to Jones and Reid's gonna have the cheeseburger plug.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna have a buffet if Andy's around.
So this is my question with Chris Jones. What's he got the plug for? What is he going to add in terms of value? Kelce's just going to be the turn up, just the most exciting location. Mahomes is going to hook me up with the Coors Lights. Reid is going to hook me up with the cheeseburgers. What is Chris Jones going to hook me up with?
He is going to roast everyone. You're going to be busting your gut all night because he's going to roast everyone.
Yeah, he might be
the roast guy.
He's the funniest guy.
Yeah.
That might be right. That is hard.
I'll go first here. I'm gonna give you the contrarian answer. I'm gonna say Kelce's the one who's got to go, and here's the reason why. I have been known to a time or two have a real good time, to go out and have a real good time. More often than not, though, I'd kind of rather chill. We find a booth, maybe get some food, maybe everyone else gets a drink or two. We have a nice tall glass of ice water. Mm-hmm. We just kind of chill and hang out. I feel like if you're in that mood, Kelce's like, no, come on. We got to go. We got places to go. I got people to see. I'm like, nah, me and Big Red are just kind of hanging out. We're just chilling. I think Mahomes and Jones might be a little more just, yeah, we'll chill. I think that's more where I would gravitate.
We'll keep the circle small.
Yeah.
And yeah,
just the bros tonight.
Keep the volume at an appropriate level.
Yeah.
There's zero chance that's happening with Kelce.
No chance.
No, that's a good point. Also, Reid probably be like, hey, let's get to bed at a decent time, man, so we can watch some tape. We can watch some tape tomorrow.
I gotta wake up at 4 a.m. to watch tape and eat eggs.
And I'm a night owl, so yeah maybe Reid's got to go.
The cheeseburger plug.
Oh, he would know the exact place. Because the flip side is, maybe at 11 o'clock, it's like, guys, I know a spot. And you roll in, and it's the best double bacon cheeseburger you've ever had in your life.
That's true. And it's dark and dimly lit. The staff's probably rude, but God, that food is good.
Just sitting in grease, wrapped in that brown paper.
Delightful.
Oh, man. Now I want a cheeseburger.
That sounds so good right now.
One got to go. These three, I can only do three here. These three Chiefs defensive players are unrestricted free agents. You can only pick one to bring back for 2023. And we'll do obviously much more roster manipulating and discussion.
A little more formal.
Yeah, as we go forward here. But three guys, one stays. Derek Nottie, Colin Saunders, Juan Thornhill.
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like Nottie is the most replaceable. He's the longest tenured, but I feel like he's also the most replaceable. His game is a little more one note, I think. Saunders is the unique one here because his production has not really been there. It's been much more flashes really the whole time he's been with the Chiefs, but he's such a good athlete for a big man. I think I'm between Saunders or Thornhill. Man, you know what? I will say Thornhill. And my reasoning is going to be, I think I'd rather stick with continuity up front and try to add a little more, continuity on the back end and try to add a little bit more firepower up front.
Okay.
And essentially try to build like this Eagles team. A good defensive line in front seven can mask a lot of problems in the backfield. And if you've already got a really good defensive backfield, well, that only makes your defense more high-powered if you had a little more burst on the inside. So, yeah, I think I'd keep Thornhill from that group.
I will argue for Saunders because he is so athletic. I feel like there might be another level he can get to as a player.
Okay.
I think with Nottie and Thornhill, what you see is what you get. And I'm willing to bet on there might be another level that Colin Saunders can get to. Also, he is the best of the three on Twitter by far.
Okay, that's also true.
Great poster.
Absolutely true. We have to get to a break. Our Wendy's High School Athletes of the Week are next on 580 Sports Talk. for the Wendy's High School Athletes of the Week here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got a couple of sophomores on the docket for today. Madison Freeland from Shawnee Heights Wrestling, who we actually spoke to late last week prior to regionals this weekend about her tremendous finish at the UKC meet. And our male athlete of the week is Jackson Cowden, a diver from Topeka High. Dan and I were talking earlier. We do not know the last time we featured a high school diver on the show. It's been a long time and predates either of us for certain. And so we're extremely excited to bring you this. How about a two-time state qualifier, two-time city champion, and now a one-time Centennial League champion as well. As always, our athletes of the week are brought to you by your Topeka area Wendy's. And without further ado, let's get to our athletes of the week. Second up, it'll be Jackson Cowden from Topeka High. And first, Madison Freeland from Shawnee Heights Wrestling. Our Wendy's female high school athlete of the week is a sophomore wrestler for the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds. Her name is Madison Freeland, who picked up an individual championship in her weight class this past Saturday at the United Kansas Conference meet. She went 3-0 on the day to pick up the championship, and the Thunderbirds picked up their fourth consecutive UKC tournament team title as well. Madison, let's just start right there with what happened this past week at the UKC wrestling meet. What was working so well for you that helped you get to a 3-0 record for the event?
I'd say before my meets, I make sure to get into a good headspace, get ready for the day before my matches. I like to think about what I'm going to do. I go out there and try to take things slow and set up my moves and figure out what's going to work for me in that match.
What does that headspace look for you or how does it look for you during these meets? I think the mental side of wrestling is so interesting because it's lonely to a degree. It's just you, one other person, you're on the mat, everybody is there watching you. So what does that headspace look like, and how do you get yourself into that calm space going into a match?
I'd say for me, I like to slow myself down, try not to worry about what the other person's going to do, try to think about my moves and just think about how, it's the same mat. Just to me, the other person doesn't matter who they are, their record, their school. I just try to think about what I'm going to do.
What was the emotion you felt right at the end of that when you knew you had picked up an individual title, when you got to go 3-0 for the day? What was the eventual feeling when it was done? Was it almost relief? Was it excitement, overjoy? How were you feeling in that moment on Saturday?
I'd say it was kind of a combination of all of it. Kind of relieved to be done for the day, but also super excited to have won league. It was pretty cool.
We're chatting with Madison Freeland, a sophomore for Shawnee Heights Girls Wrestling. She is our Wendy's Female High School Athlete of the Week after an individual title pickup this past weekend at the United Kansas Conference Wrestling meet. Madison, overall, over the course of the season, you are now 27-5 for the year. And I've got to ask, just over the course of the year, how would you kind of assess, how would you grade the way you've performed so far this season?
I'd say I'm doing pretty good this year. Definitely a lot better than last year. Sometimes I work myself up and get too worried about matches, and that leads me to not doing so well when I'm wrestling. But I am really proud of the way that I'm wrestling this year. My record has been good. I think all my hard work has really led to this.
Over the course of the offseason, going from your freshman campaign now into your sophomore year, what would you say you worked on the most? Was it more so technical things? Was it more so your actual skill on the mat? Or was it more of the mental side of it, more of not getting yourself overly worked up going into individual matches?
Actually, going into this year during the offseason, I worked a lot on just slowing things down and learning the movements of everything and the motions and really drilling it to memory.
A couple more minutes with Madison Freeland. She is our Wendy's Female High School Athlete of the Week, the individual champion in her weight class at this past weekend's United Kansas Conference Wrestling meet, a sophomore for the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds. I'm always curious, Madison, when we talk to girls wrestlers, how you got into the sport, because in Kansas, it is still a very new sanctioned sport for the Activities Association. And a lot of girls who are getting into it, it might be something new to them, or maybe they're from a wrestling family who's been interested in it in a long time. What's your story for getting involved in wrestling and interested in wrestling going into your career at Shawnee Heights?
Well, my brother, he's a senior this year. He's wrestled since middle school, and my parents always kind of teased me about doing it. And freshman year, the high school had a girls team, and I just decided I would go for it, try it over the summer, see how I liked it. And I ended up really liking it. I liked the team, the environment, and the culture of the team. And when season started, I was doing a lot better than I thought I would, fell in love with the sport, and now here we are a year later, and it's actually paid off.
Is there anything in particular about the sport of wrestling that really grabbed you the most?
Definitely the team and like the environment at practices, and you get really close with each other, and it can be a very individual sport, but at the same time you're working with your team to win the tournament. I like that the best, and being able to work hard and like see your improvement like physically is a really good part of it too.
Last thing I've got for you, Madison, is looking ahead to the rest of this year, the finale of your sophomore season. What goals are still out there that you want to accomplish before this season wraps up here in the near future?
I'd say my goals for the rest of the season are for this weekend at regionals to qualify for state. And then when state comes around, try to place top 6, have a good weekend at state.
Madison Freeland is our Wendy's Female High School Athlete of the Week. She is 27-5 overall on the year, coming off of a 3-0 weekend at the United Kansas Conference Wrestling Meet, in which she picked up a weight class individual title as well. Madison, we appreciate you taking some time for us today. I know it's a very busy schedule with where wrestling is at this time of the year, so thank you so much for taking some time for us, and best of luck with everything that's to come the rest of your sophomore season.
Of course, thank you.
Our Wendy's Male High School Athlete of the Week for this week is Jackson Cowden, a sophomore from Topeka High, who picked up the first Centennial League diving championship of his career at the Cap Fadden Auditorium this past week with a 470.6 to 319.4 margin in the championship competition. And first of all, Jackson, congratulations. Take us back to this past Thursday at the Cap Fadden Auditorium. What really stood out to you about the way you were able to perform to pick up your first league championship?
Thank you, man. So, we were getting into warm-ups, and I was feeling pretty good. You know, I was coming in, I was pretty confident, but I was still focused. I really wanted to kind of make my mark there. I knew one of the Emporia divers wasn't going to be there, so I know my odds had kind of shot up a lot. And we got into the competition, and I got through my first dive, and I felt pretty good about that one. And I did my second dive, and I ended up getting a 10 on, or one of the judges gave me a 10 on that dive. And I think from that point on, I just knew it was going to be a pretty good meet. I was starting to feel my rhythm.
You mentioned the preparation for it and just feeling like maybe it was going to be a good day and then having a first good dive. So take us back to the moment then you got back up there to get ready for dive number 2. What is going through your mind, or is nothing going through your mind at that point? Were you so locked in that there was really nothing else going through your head at that time?
Honestly, it's really kind of a mix. You're preparing over on the side and you're kind of going through your motions and you're getting it in your head and you're just like, okay, you need to do this and this and this. And then you get up onto the board and that's the only thing that you really think about. But you also kind of have to allow yourself to blank out and just kind of live in the moment. And then you just kind of go out and do it. And as long as you're really, really focused, it just kind of happens. So
Jackson Cowden is our guest, a sophomore from Topeka High, our Wendy's Male High School Athlete of the Week, after Jackson picked up his first 1-meter diving championship from the Centennial League this past week. Take us back through your entire season, Jackson, or give us a little bit of a peek back on the season you've had. You don't end up a league champion in a league as competitive as the Centennial as a sophomore without having a pretty darn good year up to this point. What have been some of the highlights of your season up to now?
So the first meet of the season, I qualified for state. So that was pretty cool. And I think a couple meets in, I think it was maybe the third or fourth meet of the year, we went over to Lawrence and I broke our 6-dive record for, I believe, the third time. And we had one of our 11-dive meets coming up in Emporia. It was a Saturday, like a couple weeks ago. And I had broken our 11-dive record for the first time in the high school diving careers. I think those are definitely some of my biggest bright spots from this year.
Have you been able to take a moment to reflect on the fact that you're now still in the midst of year number 2 of your high school diving career and already have school records? You already have 2 city championships, a league championship. You're going to state for the second time. Have you been able to just take a moment yet and think, wow, I've accomplished a lot in such a short period of time?
I mean, it kind of happens in the moment, and you just kind of get shocked by it. At least I was, for sure. When I won the city championship for the first time last year, and I had ended up breaking our school record a couple of times, that was kind of a surreal moment to me. So every now and then, though, I do kind of look back and I'm like, wow, that really happened. So.
We're talking with Jackson Cowden, a sophomore diver from Topeka High, our Wendy's Male High School Athlete of the Week. Going into this year, Jackson, what were some of the goals you set for yourself? Obviously, with such a lofty freshman campaign, winning a city championship, going to state last year as well. What were some of the goals you set for yourself going into this year? And with obviously a little bit of the season still remaining, how many of those have you met up to this point?
So there was 3 big ones that I really wanted to accomplish going into this year. I wanted to get higher. I wanted to get higher in state. I definitely want to try to get up on that podium for state this year. So we're gonna see how that goes in the coming days. I wanted to win the Centennial League championship. And I also wanted to break our school 11 dive record because I hadn't broken that one going into the season. So I've got 2 of those checked off so far. So I really hope I can make that 3rd one happen.
Before we look ahead to state and the finale of your sophomore season, I do want to go back even a little bit further, Jackson. How did you get involved in diving? Was it something that has been a family affair forever? Is it something that you tried pretty young and decided to, for lack of a better phrase, dive right into? How did you really get interested in this, and how did it become a passion of yours?
So it's kind of funny. I used to do like a little bit of like parkour and gymnastics when I was younger. But I kind of stopped doing that when I got to around middle school and I started playing basketball. But then COVID hit and I didn't really get a chance to practice basketball a super huge amount. But I still had a little bit of gymnastics training in me. So I ended up getting to high school. And my sister had mentioned to Mr. Bennett, who was our swim and dive coach, that I had done gymnastics in the past. So he had talked to me about coming in and trying dive out. And I figured, I'll give it a shot. I've got a little bit of a background in it. And so, yeah, my freshman year, I just went out and 4th meet in, I believe I ended up breaking our school record. And then it just kind of everything carried on from there. So.
And the natural follow-up, I think, to that, Jackson, is how did you get involved in gymnastics and parkour at such a young age?
I had always been interested in like doing flips. Me and my friends, we would just go over to the local gymnastics place every couple of days, and they would always have open gyms. So we would just kind of mess around in there. And we would teach ourselves stuff. So I taught myself how to do like backflips, double backflips, front flips, all that type of stuff. So.
Well, that is absolutely fascinating and fantastic, and a great way to get into, obviously, the very acrobatic part of diving. And with that, Jackson, let's look ahead to 6A State coming up this week. It'll be over in Johnson County. What is the preview for yourself? What are you hoping to accomplish, and what do you make of the field that you'll be competing against?
Well, for now, I'm taking it one day at a time, or at least one section at a time. So first off, I want to get through prelims. And if I get through prelims, I want to make it through semis. And if I make it through semis, I want to make it to the finals. And finals, I want to make it up on that podium. So that's definitely been my goal for this year that I've been striving to get to. And I think I can do that.
It has been a tremendous year for Topeka High sophomore diver Jackson Cowden, our Wendy's Male High School Athlete of the Week, coming off his first Centennial League 1-meter dive championship this past week at the Kep Fedden Auditorium, his 2nd consecutive city diving championship already in the books, and he's looking for a podium finish at 6A State coming up this week. Jackson, we appreciate you taking the time for us today. Really do appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with us, and best of luck to you when it comes to 6A State this week.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Those are our Wendy's High School Athletes of the Week. Our female athlete of the week, Madison Freeland from Shawnee Heights Wrestling, and Jackson Cowden, our male athlete of the week from Topeka High Diving. Have you ever tried parkour?
No.
I should have continued to drill Jackson on that. Like, how do you get into that? I don't even know. Like, let's just go flip off of stuff, I guess.
I've slid down a banister at a public staircase. Does that count?
I've done that on our staircase right over here. I've slid down the railing a couple times. That's as close as I've ever gotten. We've got to take a break for the national and local news. We'll come back. What's going on with K-State? We'll discuss it next on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. Brendan Dworzynski here, Dan Lucero over there. Thank you so much for joining us for the show this afternoon. We would love for you to be a part of the program. The Big O Tires text line is open. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. Comment section on YouTube, also wide open today. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel where you can go find all of our live streams, post-game video reactions, and so much more. Again, our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. If you missed the first hour of the show, our round of one gotta go, some good questions today. Our high school athletes of the week, recap of the Chiefs championship parade. Head to our website, 580WIBW.com. Hover your cursor over the podcasts tab, and then click on 580 Sports Talk. And if you want to hear the audio from the parade itself, once you get to that podcast tab, click on Mic'd Up. The guys had the audio from that during the 2 o'clock hour of Mic'd Up today. So that is the best place to go and find that. Coming up this hour, we've got a lot of K-State to get to, a lot of college basketball in general. What is going on with the Cats after they started the year phenomenally? They started Big 12 play phenomenally. They were 6-1. They are now 7-6 in Big 12 play, which in a vacuum, really good. If you told me going into the year, Dan, that this team was going to be 7-6 through 13 Big 12 games, I would say this is beyond my wildest dreams for what K-State could have been. I thought 7 was the golden number for K-State Big 12 wins this year.
Yeah, I thought that kind of felt like best case scenario coming into this year. And I think it felt even better than best case scenario for everybody who voted on the preseason poll. And had them dead last in the league. So it is important to still have that big picture mindset when looking at what Kansas State has done this year with essentially a brand new team and a first-year head coach. It is important to maintain that big picture perspective. At the same time, obviously, they're not playing very good basketball right now, and we're going to discuss the reasons why they're not playing very good basketball right now.
Yeah, we'll break that all down here in just a second. Tim Fitzgerald is also going to join us this hour. Our Wildcat Wrap-Up brought to you by Azura Credit Union with Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. And, of course, we have today's What is Wrong with You? By the way, one note, Dan, we were talking earlier about what is the next month, next couple of weeks going to look like for the Kansas City Chiefs and where they're going to be appearing. I don't know if you noticed this. It would be hard not to. Patrick Mahomes has been wearing or carrying the WWE World Championship everywhere since they won the Super Bowl, including all day at the parade today. WWE SmackDown coming to Kansas City March 17th. I am pretty certain a certain MVP quarterback is going to make an appearance at the T-Mobile Center for that.
I could see that.
I would imagine so. He's going to come down. Everyone's going to cheer for him.
Is he going to take a bump?
I imagine there's probably some contractual limitations on that, but then someone's going to come down, talk trash, and then
maybe Travis Kelce hits somebody with a chair. Do they still? I know they don't do the chair shots to the head anymore.
Yeah, they'll do them to the back though, or maybe to the arm. They'll do that still, and then like Brock Lesnar will come out, place will go nuts, and sets up the main event. Boom! I've written the March 17th edition of SmackDown for you.
Don't even need to watch it. Wow.
I imagine Patrick Mahomes will be there for that. I just saw that a moment ago that it's coming in just about a month. The Kansas State Wildcats lost again last night, and the first half, so I had both the KU and K-State game on last night.
I did too.
Abby and I sat on one half of the couch each with the KU game directly in front of me on one screen and the K-State game directly in front of her on the other screen. So I was watching both games. I had a more critical eye for most of the night on the KU game, but I saw the entirety of K-State as well.
And vice versa for me, because I assumed that would be the case for you.
Right.
So I had K-State on the big screen. I had KU on the smaller screen. But, certainly had the more critical eye on the Wildcats.
Perfect synergy here.
Yes.
And at halftime, I told Abby, I said, look, I don't think they played all that well, but you're still tied. Oklahoma's not good. And I think K-State's going to be fine. Again, the level that K-State needed to get to win this game, I thought was pretty low. We discussed that yesterday late in the show, that K-State needed about an average game from Noel and Johnson, and just don't turn the ball over a terribly high number of times. And play decent defense, you'll probably be fine. And that's essentially what you got in the first half. Probably left a little bit to be desired offensively. I thought the defense was fine enough. Oklahoma was making some shots. I figured K-State would be fine in the second half. And then the wheels fell off. I mean, it was to be tied at halftime and then lose by 14 to that OU team. That's in a one-game sample. I'm not saying the whole year at this point is this, but for that one game, that's a disaster of a half. You cannot have that kind of performance.
They got outscored 43-29 in the second half. The factor that I think maybe is being under-discussed for last night's game in particular, David Gasson started and only played 2 minutes. He was not feeling well and couldn't go back into the game. So when Gasson doesn't play, and look, Kansas State has played won games when David Gasson wasn't available.
Plenty of games.
But they're a lot better defensively when he's on the court, because when Naquan Tomlin is on the court playing the 5, or there were a couple lineups in the first half where Ish Massoud was essentially out there playing small ball 5. When you do that, you can switch screens on the perimeter, but you cannot protect the rim. There's no rim protection in the lineup when Tomlin is your 5 or when Massoud is your 5. When Bebe Ishiola is in the game, you've got a little bit more muscle. You've got a little bit more bulk underneath the basket. But Bebe's not going to help you on the switch. And so what you end up having to do is, for most of the game, you're having to help in the post. Because Oklahoma's not big, but Tanner Groves is a veteran post who's got some bulk and could get into position off a switch. So K-State's having to help down on Groves in the post, or help down on who was the other big kid? Owe.
Yeah.
That played, or Jaden Hill. And when you help down on those guys, you're leaving a shooter on the perimeter. You're vacating the spot. And OU was finding that guy, and that guy, whoever it was knocking them dead. I mean, they made 11 of 23 3-pointers last night. That's 48%. It is difficult to lose when you make 11 threes in a Big 12 game.
Yeah.
And some of that is variance. It's true. Some of that is just OU caught a hot shooting night, and it was a matchup that K-State struggled to defend, because that's the flip side when you have Gasson, right? You can do both. Gasson is adept enough in the post and athletic enough on the perimeter that you can switch everything, still defend the post, and still be out on shooters. When you have Ishiola as your 5 or you have Tomlin as your 5, you kind of have to do one or the other, and you're going to be hurting in the other department. And the numbers back this up, that K-State's lineups with Gasson on the floor are much better defensively. That, I think, led to the defensive breakdown. I think they had a plan how they wanted to play against Oklahoma, and Gasson going out after 2 minutes blew that up. And defensively, they were not good all night. Really, I thought they played a pretty good first half. I thought an exceptional first half on offense. And the only thing keeping Oklahoma in the game was the 3-ball. And then in the second half, Oklahoma kept making threes, and Kansas State never did. K-State went 4 of 20 from 3. You go 4 of 20, the other team goes 11 of 23. It doesn't really matter what your uniform says or what your record is. If that's the disparity from behind the arc, the team that makes 11 threes is probably going to win that game.
Yeah.
So, again, that's last night. That's last night in a vacuum. The other thing that continued to happen for Kansas State, their offense got bogged down in the second half. They were having a lot of success going into the post, kind of getting out and running a little bit. The ball was moving. Tomlin was good in the first half. Bebe was good offensively in the first half. In the second half, Oklahoma shut off the water to the post, and K-State played a lot of ISO ball. And that didn't really work out. And they didn't make any shots from 3. Marquise Noel continues to be in an offensive funk. He was 4 of 13 from the field, 2 of 9 from deep. Like, again, in a vacuum, that's what happened last night. They got make or miss game, and sometimes you just get 3'd to death. It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody in this league. It's just one of those nights.
How many times have you heard a KU fan complain and whine about, oh, this guy who never shoots threes hit a ton against that just happens. That's basketball to a degree, especially at the college level at this point in time. Sometimes teams just get really hot, knock down a bunch of threes. If this game, if you could remove the context of the last month from this game, you say, look, that sucks. K-State had this game against Texas Tech last year. I remember I was at the game where Texas Tech was ranked. They were playing really well. They came to Manhattan, and K-State won, I believe, by double digits and was in control the entire second half. It was essentially this same game with a ranked team against one of the worst teams in the Big 12. This time, turnabout is fair play. K-State was on the losing end of it on the road. So if you just take this game as your only context, you say, all right, that sucks, but whatever, you move on. The greater context, though, is K-State has now lost 5 of its last 6 games overall. They beat TCU. They looked pretty good against TCU last week. Other than that, it's been a struggle. The shooting numbers aren't quite there. Last night, Johnson was better offensively, at least shooting the ball than he had been the previous game. But Noel, 4 of 13, just 2 of 9 from 3. That is a stark departure from where he was at the beginning of Big 12 play and of the non-conference slate.
Here's the thing I'll say about Keontae Johnson. He played 39 minutes, took 11 shots. There should never, ever be a K-State basketball game where Keontae Johnson takes fewer shots than Naquan Tomlin. That should never, ever happen.
I agree with that.
Should never happen.
I agree.
Even and Tomlin had a decent night. He was 8 of 15 from the field, missed both of his threes. Naquan, dude, they're not guarding you out there because you can't make them. Like, he's less than 25% from behind the arc. That's why they're letting you shoot those, man. You got to put the ball on the floor and have another plan. But yeah, Tomlin threw out a double-double last night, 17 and 10. I don't say that to pick on him. I'm just saying Keontae Johnson has to shoot the ball more. They got to run more plays for him. Mm-hmm. They got to get the ball to him in advantageous situations, high percentage situations. And if Oklahoma took all of those away, like I'd have to rewatch the game again with a coach sitting next to me to be able to tell you if that was the case or not, then that's a different deal. But that's not going to be a good sign for Kansas State if Keontae Johnson's taking the 3rd most shots on the team. Like he's got to be a little bit more forceful, a little bit more assertive. And the broadcast, Lance Blanks was the color guy last night, was all over that.
One thing he got right the entire night. Good for him. We switched which game we had audio on partway through. Oh my God. He's just rambling. They're 3 minutes into a commercial break. He's still talking about the same thing. My God. Yeah. But beside the point, so that gets to the general topic here of why has it gotten to this point? Why are we ending up in a situation where K-State has now lost back-to-back games to the 2 worst teams in the league? Why are we at a point where Keontae Johnson, who not long ago I said on these very airwaves, on this very program, he's the best player that this team has. Even when Noel was going crazy, I still thought Johnson was the best player on the team. Why is he taking the 3rd most shots despite playing the most minutes on the floor with that kind of skill set, especially on the offensive end? We have different theories for this. You teased that a little bit earlier, so I'm curious where you land on why K-State has hit a wall here. I am not in the camp that it's all over. This is a disaster. If you are very online like Dan or myself, and maybe you've seen things on Twitter or you're a message board reader or whatever, things seem dire, like worse than we've seen even the last couple of years when the program was really in a bad spot. I'm not nearly that far. I'm discouraged about where K-State is trending right now. But I think the question that most people are asking, in fact, people reached out to me to ask what's going on. Why has K-State hit this wall? What has gotten us to this point?
So there's the question of, is this the sky falling on Kansas State, or is this maybe just Kansas State sort of finding its level? Mm-hmm. And I tend to lean towards the latter theory here, that Kansas State, despite their 6-1 start to Big 12 play, was probably not a team that, I mean, coming into this year, you didn't consider them a Big 12 title contender.
No.
And what tends to happen in the Big 12, and we have seen this year after year after year after year after year, is that the Big 12 is so good from top to bottom that eventually, if you're not the cream of the crop, you get dragged toward the middle. Mm-hmm. There's a reason nobody in Lawrence ever panics when KU starts league play like 2-2 or like
3-5 or whatever it was this year.
Yeah. When they get off to a slow start in league play, nobody panics. And one is because they've won it so often that that's what they expect to have happen. But here's the reason it happens. Like, as the year goes on, it's one of Bill Self's favorite sayings, water tends to find its level. And you lose games that feel like, oh man, we're rolling. We should beat every team in the league. We should go on the road and beat all the lousy teams. We should sweep the team at the bottom of the conference. And that's just not realistic for you if you're not a team that's of the top of the top, the cream of the crop in the conference. And Kansas, talent-wise, they're always that. They've always got more elite talent. They've got a deeper roster. And that's why they're up at the top of the standings every year. Mm-hmm. If you're not that, you end up getting dragged toward the middle. as the teams that start slow and are at the very bottom kind of claw their way to the middle as they try desperately to earn an NCAA tournament berth by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's happening to Kansas State more so than, man, they're sorry, they were a fluke, they were this and that. No.
Yeah.
They're a good team in a league that takes being a great team to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's clunky. Let me try that again. They're a good team in a league where to win it, you have to be great.
Yeah.
And this same thing is happening right now to Iowa State. Like if you look at the Big 12 standings right now and you look at Iowa State, that's a team like Kansas State that has spent time in top 10, top 15 ranking in the country. And right now, Iowa State has a 7-5 conference record going into their game tonight. They've got, who they got?
I'll pull it up for
TCU.
you.
They got TCU.
Yeah.
They got TCU on the road. And there's some rumors that Mike Miles might be back for TCU tonight. So that's a game Iowa State could lose. Iowa State could be in the very same spot as Kansas State. But, is Iowa State good? Anybody who's watched them would tell you, yeah, they're a good team. They've got good players. They're well coached. They play hard. They do all this. They could be 7-6 in the league if they lose tonight and functionally kind of out of the race. If TCU beats Iowa State tonight, it's a 3-team race the rest of the way. Because I don't think Kansas, Texas, and Baylor are all going to lose twice.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a 3-team race to the finish in the league. And then the middle of the pack, which now includes Oklahoma State at 7-6 after they lost last night, K-State's at 7-6. Either TCU or Iowa State is going to be, or both, is going to be 7-6 after tonight. The middle of the league, those are all objectively Oklahoma State, TCU, you watch those teams, those are good teams, but they're not. I mean, we've seen the depth for TCU exposed with the loss of Miles, and I think we've seen K-State's depth tested a little bit here, and it's come to be revealed that maybe they don't quite have the quality depth, and maybe guys are getting a little fatigued. I know that's a theory that is going around. I believe that's Tim Fitzgerald's pet theory. We'll have a chance to ask him in about 10, 15 minutes or so. But maybe this is a team that's hit a little bit of a wall and needs a bit of a reset.
I think that is all entirely fair. I think this is a better team than the way they've been playing over the last 6 games. I also think they're probably not quite as good as they looked at the start of Big 12 play when they started 6-1. And I think, again, personally, I feel like both of those approaches to this are fair. I do think there is an element of fatigue with this, and not to say, oh, they're not good athletes or they're not well trained or well worked or anything like that. It's not that, but I do revisit a point that we brought up, not as a reason why K-State couldn't be good, but just as a, hey, if things go wrong, this might be a reason why. Only 2 of these dudes have ever played a Big 12 grind before. That's SEC grind. Cam Carter came from LSU. SEC is a good basketball league. In fact, last year it was a very good league. Big 12 is different. This is a different kind of grind. Bob Huggins just said the other day, he was coaching in the Big East that year when 11 of 15 teams from the Big East made it to the NCAA tournament. He said this league right now, this Big 12, is a much tougher league than that is. Not even close. He said that just the other day. This is a grind. It takes a lot out of you. Physically wears you down. You don't have to be injured to be feeling the effects of, oh my God, night in, night out. I am getting beaten up. I am getting roughed up. I feel like in the last week, maybe 2 weeks, officiating has gotten a little bit more lenient with contact after a while there where it was just abominable. They were blowing the whistle every play. I feel like they've allowed a little more physicality to go over the last week or 10 days or so. That wears on you after a while. And I'm not saying that it would be a complete difference. And if this K-State team was playing in the SEC, they'd be undefeated in league play or undefeated in the Big Ten or something like that. But I do think that does eventually come back to bite you, and that can wear on you. And that's why I thought last night would have been such a great opportunity to turn things around and to not get a rest, because Oklahoma's not going to quit. I didn't expect that to happen, but maybe you could get to the final 10 minutes or so, and it's not stressful. And you can go ahead by 8, 10, 12 points and just kind of take it in, not burn up a ton of extra energy, get a little bit of a breather. Nate Aubrey goes out there for the last 30 seconds of the game, something like that. And okay, we can move into the weekend feeling okay about where we are. Keontae, Marquise, Naquan, these guys aren't completely burned up. We're on to the next one. We're feeling good about ourselves. I was hoping last night was going to be that. It ends up not being that, which isn't a death knell, but it does put you in a spot where like you said yesterday, you really have no margin for error. I don't think K-State's winning the league. They're 2 games out with 5 games to go. It's not going to happen. But there's still a lot you can accomplish this regular season. Finishing with a winning record in conference play is still out there. That is certainly possible.
Winning 20-plus games. They could be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament still. I think that all that is out there in front of them. And maybe resetting and recalibrating their goals will refresh them and say, hey, let's not worry so much about this Big 12 race. Let's take it one game at a time. Let's go beat Iowa State at home. Like that's the next one. That's going to be another tough game. And the other part of it is this too. There are 0 easy games in the Big 12.
No.
Like we look at Texas Tech and say, oh man, that's a sorry team. Texas Tech top 64 in the Ken Pom, 63rd. Oklahoma, oh man, they stink. They're playing like crap lately. They're 54th in the Ken Pom. And I know they're 13-13, but they got a lot of league losses. And one of their wins is a 30-plus point win over the number 1 team in the country. Obviously, there's something there. That doesn't happen by accident. So you don't get an off night in this league.
No.
There just isn't one that exists. It's not like you're in the Pac-12 and you get to play Washington, who's 106th in the Ken Pom. Or it's not like you're in the SEC and you get to play Vanderbilt, who's 90th in the Ken Pom. I think Vanderbilt's got some good wins. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, there's nobody you play in this league who is bad. Like, bad relative to the Big 12? Sure. Like lower in the standings, last place in the league, all of those things. And the other part is, and this is a broader theme across college basketball, only one time in the last 12 years have top 15 ranked teams had a worse winning percentage against unranked teams or against anybody on the road. Top 15 teams this year, 64-58. And that was going into yesterday. So more losses now after K-State's loss. Top 15 teams are only winning 52% of their road games this year. So it is harder now than it has historically been to go on the road and beat anybody, even unranked teams.
It's challenging to do.
So again, like I'm not like, they're a bunch of bums. They're this and that. They got a bench Marquise Noel, all this. Like I'm not here for that. I'm not listening. I don't want to hear any of that. That's nonsense.
Agreed.
But something, yes, structurally is wrong. They've got to fix it. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's physical. I don't know if it's fatigue. I don't know if maybe they've got to find another wrinkle or two on offense or another wrinkle or two on defense. But this is the challenge of being a new team and a new head coach. And we get to see in these final 5 conference games how they're going to respond to it. Because the big carrot at the end, the Big 12 title, that's over now. They got to forget about that. That's gone. So now recalibrate, readjust your goals for what you want to do, because if you get that chip back on your shoulder, then I think you're going to benefit.
We'll talk more about this game with Tim Fitzgerald coming up later this hour after a quick round of What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get to a quick round of what is wrong with you before we hear from Tim Fitzgerald for our Azura Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up. Our current winner for the week, the TNT teacher, the guy in Michigan who decided he wanted a day off, and the best way to do it, not have to create sub-plans, was to write a bomb threat and leave it on his desk. He did not actually blow up the building, but he didn't blow up his career. He's going to jail for a year.
He gets several days off now, so his scheme actually worked.
We are going to the state of Indiana for my story today, Dan. We're going to Bloomington, specifically.
Hoosier.
Where a man accused of arson told Bloomington police that he set his own car on fire to discourage people from stealing from it. Again, he didn't want people stealing from his car, so he lit his own car on fire. Police responded to a report of a suspicious person just after midnight in the parking lot of the Crawford Apartments on Henderson Street in Bloomington. An officer said he found a man standing outside next to a 1998 Buick that was on fire. The man, identified as 26-year-old Austin Bristow, reportedly told an officer the vehicle was his, and he set it on fire to stop people from stealing items inside of it. As police were talking to Bristow, the car then became engulfed in flames and caused a small explosion. At one point, Bristow reportedly said, quote, "I hope the explosions would be bigger," as he watched the vehicle burn. Court documents state Bristow started the fire by cutting a fuel line, dumping gas and oil into the car, setting a bandana on fire, and then throwing it into the trunk. That is really elaborate. Austin then, according to an affidavit, stated that if there was nothing left of the vehicle, there would be nothing left to steal.
Got that right.
He was arrested on a preliminary charge of arson, and you'll never believe this, he was on drugs. They found several packed syringes and a yellow powder that he identified as benzos.
Yeah, man, that adds up.
There's no way you would do this if you weren't on drugs. No way. No chance.
He was right, though.
Yes.
If there's not a car there, there's nothing for anyone to steal.
Sometimes being technically correct is the best kind of correct. Not this time, because he no longer has the 1998 Buick. That's a 25-year-old car.
Yeah, man. It lived a great life. Deserved a better fate.
Yeah, it dies in a very tragic and undignified way. Blowing up.
We're going across the pond to jolly old England for my What Is Wrong With You today. We meet 20-year-old Liam Smith, who was spotted on his stepmom's three-wheel e-scooter with a woman on the back, 4 a.m., January 14th, and then seen staggering into a branch of McDonald's. I love a branch of McDonald's. Like it's the bank.
Let me put my debit card in and get a McDouble out.
I would like to withdraw some French fries.
Oh my God, that's funny.
This is from metro.co.uk, so I love how it's written. Anyway, he went to the McDonald's Federal Credit Union in the Three Counties Retail Park in Malvern, Worcestershire, by police officers called out to another incident. He was found to be 3 times over the drink driving limit and has been left with a 2-year driving ban.
This slang is putting my head in a pretzel.
The court heard Smith, who hopes to train as a soldier, had taken his stepmom's mobility e-scooter after getting hungry following a night of heavy drinking. His lawyer said it wasn't an e-scooter often driven by people of his age, but his stepmother's mobility aid bike he had permission to drive. The vehicle had no number plates, but if it had, he would have realized driving it on roads after drinking alcohol would mean he was committing an offense. If he'd realized it was a criminal offense, he wouldn't have parked next to a marked police vehicle.
Oh, no.
Chairman of the bench, Chris Mitchell, said, if you're going to join the army, you need to think about your actions.
So he stole his mom's rascal.
Basically.
Okay. Got drunk and went to McDonald's.
To go to the local McDonald's branch
of McDonald's. That's too funny.
I'm going to be thinking about that for the rest of the day.
Stop by the McDonald's branch.
Hello, yes. I would like to transfer this Big Mac to my stomach's account, please.
That's pretty funny. That's very funny.
I'd like to open up a savings account of McNuggets.
Yeah, what's the percentage yield on a large fry? Here's a fun fact, by the way, about McDonald's fries in the UK. If you like salty fries, don't go to a McDonald's in England. They're totally unsalted.
You take out a McMortgage.
Oh my God. Who do you have today?
Honestly, I love them both. We'll go with the guy who lit his own. Well, no, we'll go with now. They were both inebriated.
Yeah.
I'll go with the guy who lit his car on fire, but that's not beating TNT Teacher.
Yeah, I'm with you. The TNT Teacher wins again. I think that one's got a real good chance to win the week. We'll find out if it can extend its run tomorrow. But first, we've got to talk to Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com next on 580 Sports Talk. It was unfortunately not a big Kansas State victory for the Cats last night as they fell to Oklahoma in Norman. And to talk all about that game and so much more, we welcome in Tim Fitzgerald, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. You can find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. And, of course, go find all of GoPowerCat's tremendous content covering K-State at GoPowerCat.com. What's up, Fitz? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciated the roast of Dan on Twitter just now.
Yeah, it actually, I had to delay answering the call to hit send on the tweet.
I wondered why it took 3 rings instead of the traditional 2.
Yep, that's it. I had to send the tweet so I could say I sent it before I answered the phone.
Hey, well, as someone who is terminally online, I can appreciate needing to get a good post off before attending to other responsibilities. Fitz, K-State was bad last night. The first half was fine. The second half was just plain bad. What happened? Why did it go from competitive, but K-State will probably pull this out in the end at the half to, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. They looked engaged. Even though they weren't playing well, they looked like they were engaged. They wanted to put it out there on the court and be better. Tied at halftime. I don't know what's going on. And you know what? In reality, only one of these guys, maybe two, if you want to count Ish. I don't know. Anyhow, went through a full Big 12 season. And I'm wondering if some of these guys aren't just kind of overwhelmed by how relentless this is. Let's be honest. Keontae Johnson looks exhausted. Marquise Noel's making bad decisions, but the entire team doesn't look either mentally or physically fresh right now. And I guess you can recover that, but I kind of thought in the first half they were going that direction, and then it just all came apart in the second half. It was beyond dreadful. I kept thinking up until about the 8-minute mark they were going to come back, that they'd find the spark. Because let's be honest, neither Oklahoma nor Texas Tech played overwhelmingly well in those two losses. K-State played overwhelmingly bad the entire game with Tech, and then the second half with Oklahoma. It's hard to explain, and hopefully it's just a road thing if you're K-State, because you got to come home and play a really good Iowa State team, which also has some road issues.
When it comes to Keontae in particular, Dan mentioned it earlier on this hour that you really shouldn't have a game in which he only takes 11 shots but is on the floor for 39 minutes. He's too skilled and too important of an offensive player to have that many attempts to score. Do you think the reason why he might have a stat line like that or has struggled the last couple games is because of fatigue over anything else?
Well, there's probably a number of factors. Might be he's not as active. Might be his teammates aren't getting him the ball out of selfishness or a need to, try something else. I'm not sure, but I agree. One of the things I'm fascinated by with Keontae is he's so good. He can be kind of checked out a game and still put up pretty good numbers. I mean, I've had a game I covered this year where I didn't think he played that well, and the guy ended up with a double-double. He's just that good. But I think he's kind of trying to figure out what works for him, too. The dribble penetration's been taken away. I don't think he shoots the three enough. I think, that'd be an easy way for him to get more involved. And he's trying to do what I thought he'd do with hit some pull-up shots, and he's just not very skilled at it. There's some holes in his game that have become pretty evident over this stretch. But I think if he was more fresh and ready to go, I think he'd be better. But, boy, he's leaving free throws short. He's missing dunks. His one dunk last night barely got over the rim. I just don't think he has much hop in his step right now.
Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com is our guest on the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. We do it every Wednesday at this time on 580 Sports Talk. Tim and his outstanding staff publish at GoPowerCat.com. You can find Fitz on Twitter, where he is not roasting me at Life of Fitz. Fitz, you mentioned something interesting there about fatigue and the grind of a Big 12 season, and there's just no get right opponent on the schedule. Even the teams that seem bad in the context of the league are still top 64 teams in KenPom. There's just no weakness. There's no night off in this league, and there's definitely not one on the road. That being said, do you think maybe they've gone throttled down a bit too much, perhaps in practice, where Jerome Tang as a first-year head coach maybe needs to, I don't want to say lay off the guys, but maybe ease off a little bit to ease off that throttle and maybe get these guys back into a position where they've got 40 minutes of juice?
Yeah, look, I'm not privy to the practices, so I don't know what rate at which they're going. But I personally, if I was Jerome Tang, first of all, my record would be 3-20. But if I was in Jerome Tang's situation, I would probably. This was an off day, I imagine, for the team, because you can't take Sunday off in the middle of a Saturday, Tuesday swing. So you typically take Wednesday off. I would give them almost all of Thursday off, come and get some shots up, do some the stuff with the medical team that you need to do, and take care of your business. Maybe we'll get some film. And Friday, we're going to walk through the game plan. We're not going to stress you physically at all for 3 days and see if you're fresher on Saturday. And if you are, then we know what's going on. And if you're not, then we've got bigger problems. So I don't know. I'm not a coach, but I would sure be trying stuff, and I'm sure they are.
If K-State had gone into last night's game having won 4 straight road games instead of having lost 4 straight road games, I think we'd be talking more last night about the absence of David Gasson and what that meant to Kansas State on the defensive end, particularly, what did you see last night when Kansas State wasn't able to have Gasson on the floor for more than 2 minutes? He had an illness, as I understand it, as opposed to the things that they can do as a team with him on the court.
Yeah, he's just a mobile defender. He can, even though he's not a real big guy himself, he does handle bigger players in the post, and he does get out and defend pretty well on the perimeter because he's been a perimeter guy in this past. So he just brings a real mobile presence, but mostly what he brings is another body. And you can stay a lot fresher on the inside through the course of a game when you have him. I didn't know he was sick. The poor kid can't catch a break right now. He gets off the injury and now he's sick. So it's a player they really need. And at this point, they need all the players that have been playing. I personally probably would have tried Tyke Green at some point in the second half and seeing if he could, bring that energy to the court that he did at the TCU game. But, again, the coaches see the practice. They know what's going on.
Marquise Noel's obviously in a shooting slump, and I think that's impacted other areas of his game as well. What can he do to get out of the funk he's been in, and what can his teammates do to maybe make that a little easier on him?
Well, I think he probably needs to go back and really dig into some film and see if there's something about his form that has changed. And if there isn't, again, that could be fatigue. He just doesn't have the same oomph. His ability, it's pretty amazing to watch a guy that can consistently hit 45-foot jumpers, because that is repetitive muscle memory. And if the muscles aren't performing the same, then they're remembering the wrong stuff. So it's fascinating that we can even do that on a regular basis, that some guys like Steph Curry can consistently have the hand-eye coordination and the muscle memory to put in 30-footers. Marquise has got that, and it's special, but I think he might be worn down too. I don't really see anything from his shooting that looks off, but boy, his game is off. He is just making some dreadful decisions right now.
We're chatting with the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. That's Tim Fitzgerald here on 580 Sports Talk for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz joins us every Wednesday, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. You can find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. And, of course, go check out all the tremendous K-State content at GoPowerCat.com. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Fitz, right now, as we sit today, and the official number could change depending on what happens with Iowa State and TCU tonight, but K-State is currently tied for fifth in the Big 12 standings, 5 games to go. Does K-State end the year closer to first or closer to 10th in the Big 12 standings?
Ooh, right now I'd have to say 10th. Prove me wrong. I mean, you can beat Iowa State. You still got Oklahoma coming in, and I think they'll beat Oklahoma at home. So you're going to get 2 more wins, and that gets you to what's your record right now? I've totally lost. 9 wins?
That will get you to 9, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that would get you 5th. I don't know. Pesky Oklahoma State screwing everything up. It's getting hard to keep track of. A really good team is going to finish 7th and have to play on Wednesday in Kansas City. It's incredible. And that's not to say that West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Tech aren't good teams, but a team that's played at a high level for stretches this season is going to end up playing in the first day of the Big 12 tournament. And that's pretty defining what this conference is about.
Let's look ahead to Saturday afternoon. As you were talking about earlier, Fitz, K-State will host Iowa State. 2 big ranked home games in a row for K-State. They get Iowa State on Saturday, then just a few days later on next Tuesday, so 6 days from now, they'll take on the top 10 Baylor Bears, who are, I think, maybe the most dangerous team in the country right now. I've been beating their drum all year that watch out. Do not worry about how this team started Big 12 play, because they are nasty. But that first game against Iowa State, do you think right now, as currently composed, given the issues for both squads, K-State can find a way to pull out the win?
Yes. And that's only simply because road Iowa State is not home Iowa State. And I think road Iowa State is capable of beating this version of K-State, but hopefully home K-State kind of returns to the level they were against TCU. We'll see. They can. I would like to point out, though, for the reason of clarity, Bears don't have drums. So I don't know what you're talking about with the Bears and the drums, but they're really good. You're right about that. They're really, really good.
Can you prove that bears do not have drums?
I can't prove they poop in the woods either, but I'm going to trust it's true.
Hey, you walk off the path going for a hike one day, you might be able to prove that they do indeed go in the woods. Right now, Fitz, as the Big 12 is currently composed, how many teams get into the NCAA tournament?
I think 7, guys. I think 7 do, and I think the other 3, if they can stay at 500 or above, will be in the NIT, and that is remarkable. And let's, again, be clear. I wouldn't be hiking, let alone stepping off the path to hike.
Not a hiker, Fitz?
Look at me. I'm a snacker, I'm a recliner, and I'm a talking head.
I mean, look, those all 3 sound very enjoyable.
Fitz, you and me are the same. I got to tell you right now.
Yeah.
You're not a hiker either?
No,
not down for a hike?
No, even as a Coloradan, I'm not all that adventurous.
Speaking of snacking.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Fitz.
outdoorsy is a bar with a porch. That's a patio. That's my outdoorsy.
That's entirely fair. I was going to say, Fitz, speaking of snacking, how was the Super Bowl spread on Sunday?
Look, guys, I was focused on the game. I had to perform. I mean, I knew the team was counting on me to get them over the edge. So I had some pregame wings, got myself ready, and then I just stayed hydrated. I stayed hydrated so I could perform the best. And I feel like I played a role. I wasn't invited for the parade, but I get it. A lot of us played roles. But I got it done, and I did it without scaring the crap out of my dog.
That is definitely a win. Last thing I've got for you, Fitz, then we'll let you get on with your afternoon. But I have to imagine it's pretty fun to root for a team with Patrick Mahomes, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't suck at all. It doesn't suck. And you know, I'm not sure that those quarterbacks that played in the Super Bowl ever beat Kansas State. I'm not sure. I got to go back and check. Don't keep me. I might be wrong on that. I can't remember how many times Jalen played K-State.
Fitz,
I'm very confused. But
I was present at both Hurts and Mahomes' games in Manhattan, where they did not, in fact, beat K-State. So I can confirm that independently.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, but I tell you what, Kansas City Chiefs are lucky the Kansas City Wildcats weren't in the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that.
I was going to say, if both Hurts and Mahomes lost to K-State in Manhattan, to me that says the Cats won the Super Bowl. That's essentially what that tells me.
I know, it's math.
Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. He joins us every Wednesday for the Azura Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. You can find him on Twitter at LifeOfFitz. He and his whole crew's tremendous body of work can be found over at GoPowerCat.com. Best source for all things K-State news and notes. Fitz, as always, man, we appreciate the time thinking of you, and we will talk to you soon, hopefully after a couple of K-State wins next week.
Oh, that won't cure cancer, but that'd be nice.
That is the one and only Tim Fitzgerald joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Always appreciate the time from Fitz. We've got 1 hour left on the show today. Headlines, KU basketball, best bets for college hoops tonight. We'll get to all that, plus your text, your YouTube comments, and more next hour on 580 Sports Talk. 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Brendan Dorzinski and Dan Lucero joining you here on the Sports Voice of Kansas and on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW. You can chime in and let us know whatever you are thinking about on whatever we're talking about on today's show. The comment section, again, can be found on our live stream on our YouTube channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. We would also love for you to chime in on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is the number where you can chime in and let us know what you're thinking about whatever we're getting to on the show today. And in this final hour of the show today, we are going to get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines here in just a matter of moments. We'll also get to some Kansas basketball. KU walloped Oklahoma State last night. Really down the stretch, they took care of them. That was a close game for the whole first half as well, but then KU really looked good in the second half. So we'll talk about that game coming up here in just a minute. Plus, it's become something of a Wednesday tradition. We've got a couple of college basketball best bets for you coming up tonight as well. Some Big 12 action on the schedule, some other action from around the country, including one huge game in the top 10 from the SEC. That's all coming up later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Couple of things I want to get to real quick. One sports related, one not. I do not mean to make light of what could potentially be dangerous weather. I know snow, ice, hard to drive in, makes things cold, unpleasant. I understand all of that. Am I missing something about the snow we're supposed to get tonight? Like, all I've seen is, I might get a couple inches. Like, schools are closing. We got, hey, be careful on the roads in the morning. 2 or 3 inches ain't that much, man. Am I missing something?
It maybe feels like that to me too a little bit because of where I grew up and the amount of snow that we used to get, the amount of snow it would take to paralyze a metro area.
Right.
But no, I think it's kind of just a general rule of good thumb is to say, hey, there's a chance we could get I've seen forecasts that call for anywhere between an inch to 6. And depending on where you are, and the forecast for here isn't the same as forecast for maybe 30 miles to the east or 60 miles to the east or 60 miles to the west, then it's just a general rule of thumb that, hey, there could be some snow out there. Don't know how much you're going to get. Don't know how icy or cold it's going to be in the morning, but just a general, hey, let's all be careful and take care of each other out there. I don't think that hurts anything.
Yeah, well, be safe out there. And if we do get more snow than is projected for right now, be extra careful if you have to drive into work or do any work outside or anything like that. I know I can sound sometimes sort of flippant about the weather because I just get irritated by people who don't know how to drive when there's bad weather out. But be safe. But also, I don't know. I just was just surprised by the reaction to not a huge amount of snow, at least in our area specifically. One other thing from the Big O Tires, or not the text line, excuse me, from the YouTube comment section. This is from Matt. I'm going to reformat his question a little bit here. Who's the worst quarterback Andy Reid could turn into a really good NFL starting quarterback? Matt uses the example of Baker Mayfield.
He did it with Kevin Kolb, didn't he?
Kevin Kolb had a pretty good year when he was with Andy Reid.
He did. He did. I think that's the answer. I think that's what you have to ask yourself. Does this quarterback have the traits of a Kevin Kolb? Because if he does, Andy Reid can play winning football with that quarterback.
Kevin Kolb never started more than 5 games in a season. And the year he did start those 5 games with the Eagles, they went just 2-3, 7 touchdowns, 7 picks. Wasn't super great. I don't think that was a very good Philly team. 2010. So Cobb got hurt and Michael Vick came in. So that actually was a good Philly team. Okay, so there's a good comparison for you as well. Michael Vick, who hadn't played football in 3 years, turned into a top 10 quarterback for a couple seasons in Philadelphia. So that's another good one for you. I think Baker Mayfield is a good one. I think he could be a really good starting quarterback with Andy Reid as his head coach.
I think he could too.
I think he certainly could. Appreciate the questions. Appreciate the thoughts on the Big O Tires text line as well as in the comment section on YouTube. And with that, let's jump into our 580 Sports Talk headlines. They are, as always, brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. Go check them out online at bluedotkansas.com. Couple of pieces of baseball news and notes for you today to lead things off. First, we mentioned this briefly at the top of the show today, but the Kansas City Royals made another small addition today, originally reported by Annie Rogers of MLB.com. The Royals have signed Franmil Reyes to a minor league contract with a non-roster invite to spring training. Of course, spring training also beginning today for pitchers and catchers. The full roster and non-roster invitees will report, I believe it's on the 20th of the month, so just 5 days from now. Just 2 years ago, Reyes hit 30 home runs in the 2021 season for the Cleveland Guardians, now Guardians. Last season, he wrapped things up with the Cubs. Last year as a whole, not great. Did hit 14 home runs, had a negative WAR for the year, but has had some really good years in the past. You go back to 2021, he had an OPS plus of 128. In fact, his first 4 years in the league, he was above league average in OPS by quite some bit through those first 4 years. Just kind of hit the skids the last couple of seasons. So, hey, he makes the roster. Awesome. That's a nice power bat to add in a pinch. And if it doesn't work out, well, it cost you nothing.
I like the thought of him in right field quite a bit, actually. I like Eduardo Olivares too, and I know you got to find a place for MJ Melendez to play. You got to find a place for Drew Waters to play potentially. You got to find a place for a lot of young guys in your lineup. And again, maybe Reyes, who's not got the best body in the world, has kind of had to. That's a really kind of a harsh way to put it, but his conditioning has fluctuated at times in his career, and that has hurt his ability to be serviceable in the field.
Yeah. So
maybe he's more of a DH, and obviously your DH at bats kind of feel spoken for with Sal Perez or Vinny Pasquantino. If Nick Pratto makes the team at first base, maybe Pasquantino's your DH. So it's a fight for at bats, but hey, more competition, not a bad thing. And the lineup could use a little more thump because there's not really, other than Salvi, a guy in the lineup who you think can hit 30 home runs. And here's the guy who's done it twice in the major leagues.
Who's the most likely Royal, not including Reyes and not including Salvi? Who's the most likely Royal to hit 30 home runs?
That is a great question. I think it's either Pasquantino or Melendez.
I was going to say Pasquantino.
Man, Melendez really gets the ball in the air. He can really backspin it.
I think that's an interesting question. Again, full roster will report just 5 days from now. Pitchers and catchers reporting today down in Surprise. One other baseball note for you. Things are looking a little scary for the TV deals across Major League Baseball. Every single team that has a deal with Bally Sports, not looking great. The company that owns Bally Sports, the subsidiary of the Sinclair television company, they entered the first step toward declaring bankruptcy. We've kind of been following this over the last couple of weeks. Last week or 2 weeks ago, it was announced they were going to get to that point. Well, today we sort of hit that threshold. They missed an interest payment. They're going to end up filing for bankruptcy here soon. And if they end up having to sell off their rights to broadcast these games because they now have no money, according to Rob Manfred, this is per Bill Shaken of the Los Angeles Times, Manfred said that if Bally does not pay what it owes these Major League Baseball clubs, the teams will terminate their contracts with Bally Sports. MLB itself would then produce the individual games using their graphics and whatnot from MLB Network, and then they would try to arrange MLB directly with cable providers and TV providers to distribute them to the masses. In layman's terms, I don't really know what that tangibly means for the consumer. I guess on one hand, it would be bad because do we know this will work? Do we know that we are going to get every game on TV?
Yeah, the people who have Bally Sports, whether it's through Cox Cable or whether it's through Fubo TV or any of the other, like DirecTV Stream,
Bally Direct or whatever that's called.
Yeah, the people who have that and who know that is where they can watch the Royals. Now you're not certain if that's where you're going to be able to watch the Royals. The flip side of it is if Major League Baseball is in charge, maybe they can find some more carriage deals. Maybe they can find a way to get the product in front of more viewers where it's not just Cox or not just certain cable providers or certain satellite providers, but everybody in the area. There is a large group, and we have heard from some of you throughout the weeks and months here on 580 Sports Talk on the Big O Tires text line or elsewhere, a large group of fans who do not have the ability to watch the Royals play on television, either because they've cut the cord or because whatever cord they're attached to doesn't bring them Bally Sports. Maybe there's an option here for Major League Baseball to do something that's a little more egalitarian and gets more eyeballs on their product, which would be the smart thing to do. But when has Major League Baseball ever been interested in doing the smart thing when the more monetarily lucrative thing is available? Where this really, really is going to be interesting is massive chunks of the revenue that teams depend on a year in, year out basis.
A majority
is from these TV deals.
Mm-hmm.
And the Royals are one of 14 teams that's in an agreement with Bally Sports, or Diamond Sports is what the
company,
parent company is called. There are 14 other organizations. I believe the Guardians are one. The Tigers are one.
The Brewers, the Twins,
the Reds, the Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks have an absurd deal with them.
Yes. Like big money. I was just trying to think of this in the Central Division. It's the Tigers, the American League Central. It's the Tigers, the Guardians, the Royals. The White Sox are on Comcast in Chicago, and the Twins are on. Yeah, the Twins are.
Yeah, Bally.
Yeah, Bally Sports as well. So that's 4 of the 5 teams in the Central, and we're not talking about giant markets here, other than Chicago. But that's 4 of the 5 teams in the American League Central who are really counting on a chunk of money that they might not get.
Yeah.
And what does that do for your operating procedures?
Puts them in a really bad spot is what it does.
Yeah. And they are not the only teams going through this. There's a report that the 3 of the 4 teams that appear on AT&T Sports or Root Sports affiliates, namely the Astros, Pirates, and Rockies, have not received on-time full payments to this point for their respective TV deals for the coming year. So it certainly feels from a cable perspective that a bubble is bursting.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't know what impact that is going to have on team revenues. I don't suspect it will be a positive one, but could this, in the long haul, end up a positive if Major League Baseball's got to be in charge of distributing its product to fans? Maybe this is finally the thing that gets Rob Manfred and company to say, hey, maybe these blackouts are dumb. Maybe we should just find a way to let people in Kansas City watch the Royals if they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah. I hope it gets to that point, because more people being able to watch your product is indeed a good thing. People who want to watch it, people who don't know that they want it but will get a chance to, that is a good thing. And if you don't see that, then you are clueless about business and the business of sports. So yes, I do hope it gets to that point. What it will take to get there, though, might be kind of rocky in the meantime.
Next Blue Dot of Kansas headline for you. We have this news today from Austin, Texas, where a prosecutor moved to dismiss a felony domestic violence case against former Texas men's basketball coach Chris Beard, in part because of the alleged victim's wishes not to participate. Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza said that after a review of the evidence and considering the wishes of Beard's fiance, Randy True, the aforementioned alleged victim, his office determined the charge of assault by strangulation, suffocation, family violence could not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Beard was arrested December 12th after True called 911 and told officers Beard strangled, bit, and hit her during a confrontation in his home. She later walked back at least portions of that story, saying that she was not strangled and that she never told police that she had been strangled, and also said that Beard had acted in self-defense and that she never wanted him prosecuted. Beard's attorney has stood by the coach's innocence at all times. True walked the story back in late December before Texas ultimately made the decision to fire Beard on January 5th. I saw people, Jeff Goodman notably, who cover college basketball, on Twitter saying, now this makes it likely that Beard will coach again sooner rather than later. I don't believe that to be the case, because whether or not charges are filed, there is still public record of an incident in which there was a physical confrontation between Chris Beard and a woman, his fiance, and that he left marks on her, like bite marks, like broken glasses, like that kind of stuff. And that is a very, very hard thing to ever be able to walk back. Like, that's the stuff that was observed, and that's the stuff that is in the police report. And I mean, I don't think that's something that an AD is going to be able to sell to, because Texas fired Beard without the knowledge that charges would be dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Texas just looked at the pattern of behavior and patterns of other behavior and said, this guy's not fit to run our program. And I don't know that this changes anything from that perspective, that regarding his fitness to run a Division I men's basketball program.
I am far more cynical about it, and I wish I wasn't, but let's be blunt. There are a lot of bad dudes who are out there coaching who should not have jobs that do. And this isn't just college basketball. This isn't even just major college basketball. This is at a more minor level as well. And look, I mean, I feel like I can pretty easily, and I hate to be super negative about this and bring mass negativity to things, but we understand what Chris Beard has been alleged of doing in the past, but we also believe that he is taking great strides to improve himself as a leader and as a man, and we believe he is the right person to lead us into the next era of our program, and we will watch closely with him. We'll make a donation, yada, yada, yada. Congratulations, Chris Beard's now the head coach at New Mexico State. But like, I can see that very clearly, readily happening. And again, guys who have done bad things in the past have gotten more opportunities, and I wish that wasn't the case, but I just don't really have a whole lot of faith in the process. And again, I hate to be the extremely cynical devil's advocate, but Texas had an out. Every single coach period at the University of Texas in their contract has it written in. And we talked about this at the time when this incident popped up early in the season, that the university has written into every single contract that they can fire you for cause without penalty if you are accused of a felony. If that wasn't in that contract, I kind of think Chris Beard might still be employed by the University of Texas.
I don't know, because they could have very easily, because of how much money they're paying him and because of what his reputation as a basketball coach is, and the fact that they have entered this season and continued as a top 10 team, a team that could win a national championship, they very easily could have said, we will let the legal process play out. And once the legal process played out, which looks like it is concluded with the dropping of charges, they could have said, okay, we are satisfied with the findings of the legal system, and we will welcome Chris Beard back to be our coach. No, they took a look at what Beard was accused of doing, and also everything else they kind of knew and observed about Chris Beard in the year and a half that he was their head coach, and how Chris Beard was responding to being involved in an incident that got him suspended indefinitely, and looked and said, that is not a guy fit to run our program. And he doesn't understand why, and that's even more of a reason that he shouldn't be running our program right now. I will never say never, but I'd be very surprised it was next year somebody hired him.
That's fair.
And I think it's going to be a long time, if ever, before he's on the Division I stage again. Like, maybe there's a small school, maybe there's a JUCO willing to give him a chance. Yeah. And maybe he's got some serious issues that he's got to do a serious job of addressing. And, I'll grant anybody a certain level of grace to do that. But no, I don't think anybody who's in the hunt for a head coach to start the 2023-24 season is going to be able to sell that guy to their fans, to their players' parents, to their boosters. I don't think they can do that in the short term. No.
I would like to make this clear as well. As cynical as I am, if I was in a position and it said, hey, your best option to hire a coach is Chris Beard, I would say no 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000. I would absolutely never do that. I would not trust this guy near young men who need a leader as well as a coach, near my program, near any of the women in my program. There's absolutely zero chance. Not one bit. I just am cynical about the way that NCAA institutions often handle their business in a win at all costs kind of level. I don't want to be cynical, but unfortunately, I kind of feel like I am.
And we have somebody in the YouTube comments, Matt, pointing out that, well, it's the same scenario as Ray Rice and Ezekiel Elliott. I think that's who he's referring to. Yet they still returned. Well, for one, no, Ray Rice did not.
Ray Rice.
Now, Ray Rice never played another NFL game. And for two, though, we're talking about players and the responsibility of a player and the responsibility of a college coach. Very, very different.
Yeah, because the other thing
So the criteria then are different.
Yeah, because at the professional level, I know coaches are paid in college, but at the professional level, look, these are adults, these are paid professionals. We know exactly what they are doing. They are in it to win it. The Baltimore Ravens are a money-making operation that just happens to also be a football team. Like we know that. At the college level, even as much as university sports are separate entities and in certain situations are separate corporations from the school itself that are just under the school's umbrella, you are still a representative of that university. And, the University of Texas in this case, and to back up the points you were making, Dan, if you're the president of the University of Texas, do you want to say, yeah, our front porch program, or our second biggest front porch program, which is our basketball team, we want that guy in charge of it? Absolutely not. That makes us as a university look bad. Get rid of this guy. Whereas in the pros, hey, y'all know how the sausage is made at this point. That sort of business is already all public with the NFL. So I do think you're right. There is some sort of discrepancy there between the expectations at the pro level and the expectations at the college level. One other headline that I wanted to get to, not a huge deal. We knew this was coming, but it is taking another step forward. The Chicago Bears are another step closer to moving out of Soldier Field in the city of Chicago and moving to Arlington Heights, Illinois. They officially closed on property in Arlington Heights where the racetrack used to be. I missed that racetrack. It was so much fun going as a kid. You can see where a lot of trends that I like to follow began when I used to go to the horse track as a kid with my family. Anyway, they finalized their purchase of this land. They're going to build a huge stadium there. The city of Chicago, the mayor of the city of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, put out a statement today about the Bears closing on this and how they are still trying to fight to keep the Bears in Chicago. And one sentence reads, now that the land deal is closed, we have an even better opportunity to continue making the business case as to why the Bears should remain in Chicago and why adaptations to Soldier Field can meet and exceed the Bears' future needs. That is the mayor of Chicago, a city that is losing the cornerstone franchise of the NFL, the charter franchise of the league, cannot even spell the name of the stadium correctly. Soldier Field. I'm not getting into the politics of this, but I will tell you there's an election for the Chicago mayor coming up in a matter of days. Not great to lose the Bears right before an election.
No.
Okay? That's not a political thing. That's just facts. Not great. But hey, every other team in the NFL is going to love this because a lot more money gets pumped in when more tickets are sold, more expensive suites are sold, more events are happening at these places, etc.
And if they put a roof on the thing, they'll get a Super Bowl.
They absolutely
and maybe
will.
even a Final Four.
Oh, yeah. Chicago will get a Final Four.
Which it will be very sad that Chicago will not be playing football outdoors, but hey, they'll get a Super Bowl.
Hey, that's the price of being cowards sometimes. Any other headlines for you?
No, we're good.
That will take us to a commercial break. Thank you to Blue Dot, as always, for sponsoring our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Coming up next, KU with a very impressive win over Oklahoma State last night. We'll break it all down here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, do you recall when we found out about Dana White's Power Slap League?
Yes.
You'll never believe this, but a competitor in the Power Slap League has been suspended for a positive drug test. A guy who makes his living slapping other people for sport did cocaine. I can't.
No way.
I cannot believe it.
That is stunning to hear.
I can't
really makes me question the integrity of power slapping to hear that their contestants are on the booger sugar. I can't. I just don't know if I can trust what I see. How will I tell my kids? How will I tell my 3-year-old twins, Jack Zinn and Max Zinn, with 3 Z's each in their names? How will I ever explain to them that their favorite power slapper was a druggie?
You know, to take down those John Kennedy posters in their bedroom tonight.
Got to bring integrity back to power slapping. Morals back to power slapping.
Yeah. The way it used to be back in the good old days. It was about sport, not the fame and the fortune and the Power Slap League.
Get back to the fundamentals of slapping.
What a bunch of losers. All over the place.
The stupidest thing in the world.
Have you seen clips of it?
Yes.
It's unfathomable.
They should just call it the Concussion League.
Matt chimes in on YouTube and says, I've watched it. It's insane. It is insane. And it's dumb as hell. Like, they're seriously giving each other these violent concussions with open hand slaps. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It is like depraved.
Yes. Depraved is a great word for it.
Like, football players are the modern day gladiators, really, except they fight each other and not lions. Mm-hmm. That's sick.
Yeah,
like, it really is.
We're one step closer to. You see the movie Idiocracy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the guy's favorite TV show in the 50, 100 years in the future is Ow My Balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're one step closer to Ow My Balls Tuesday nights at 8 on TBS.
On Paramount. They're gonna bring back Spike TV just for that. KU won last night. We should get to some Kansas Jayhawks basketball here. They looked really darn good, man. They played really well against Oklahoma State. OSU got 30 points combined in the first half from Caleb Boone and Bryce Thompson. Boone has become a really strong player. He's going to finish somewhere on the all Big 12 teams this year. Bryce Thompson apparently just took that transfer really personally from KU because he had a career high the first time they played earlier this year. And then he balled out again last night as well. And despite those two going nuclear, they could not be guarded. Hand in the face, shot was going in. KJ Adams was getting the work from Caleb Boone in the post last night on the Oklahoma State offensive end. They were held to 14 points in the second half. You will take that performance in the second half from the two best players on the opposing team after they hung 30 on you in the first half. And even with those 30 points from those two, KU went to the break up by 2. They scored the last 6 points of the first half. At one point, they went on a 21-8 run over the course of the end of the first half through halftime into the second half. Offensively, I thought KU played really well. Grady Dick was awesome. And you obviously want him shooting a lot of threes because he is such a good shooter. 4 of 9 from 3, you'll take that any day of the week. But I like that he got about an even split 2-point shots and 3-point shots because he is good going downhill. He's good off the bounce. He's a good cutter. He's a creative finisher by the basket. He was awesome last night. New career high, 26 points. I thought KJ Adams very quietly had a nice night offensively. Again, struggled defensively, but I think KU did a good job of rotating the bigs in. Uday got in foul trouble, but Zuby Ejiofor hasn't played in 2 weeks, and he went in there and looked okay. They only needed him to do a little bit, and he did what was asked of him. That's fine. That's what you need out of this KU bench, who overall I thought played pretty well. Kevin McCullough was awesome. 3 boards, 8 assists, 15 points. Rolled the ankle. Sounds like he's okay. He said after the game that he's going to be good to go for Saturday.
Yeah, just a bad step. Stepped on a guy's foot. Looked painful. I'm sure in the moment, terribly painful.
I looked down. I was looking at my phone. I was getting these tweets off, I think. And I looked up and I see him in agony on the floor. And no Oklahoma State players were around. I don't remember who he stepped on, but everyone had just run up the court. I was getting ready to play as McCullough went down. And I thought, oh my God, did I just miss a non-contact injury? Because that would have been a killer.
I had the same response. I had the same reaction. I watched the replay, and yeah, he just stepped on somebody's foot.
And I looked up and I saw it, and I said, oh, thank God. He just had a grotesque bend of his ankle instead. We're all good. As long as he's good to go for Saturday, that's obviously a big deal. Jalen Wilson was KU's 4th highest scorer last night, and that's twice in the last 3 games now. Wilson has not been great offensively, although at the end of the game, he came up with a big 3, he made a couple free throws, and he came up with that huge and one as well that really felt like the dagger. All big time plays. The one last thing I want to get to here, because I want to get your thoughts on what you saw from the game too. There was a point, DeJuan Harris, when he rolled his ankle, he had to sit down for a little bit. KU ran out a lineup of Pettiford, who is her first action in a couple weeks, Yesufu, Ejiofor, McCullough, and Dick. And I tweeted something about, oh boy, this lineup looks bad. Like, oh boy, this is not, I don't know. Dick can obviously score. I don't know where the other scoring is going to come from. And the defense here, I've got some worries about. They held their own. KU went on a run during that stretch. Oklahoma State could not figure it out. Partially that's because they just hit a shooting slump. But KU made it work. They were moving it in transition with that lineup out there. It was only there for a couple of minutes. But what I thought might be the point where Oklahoma State could close the gap and get back into the game, KU was able to keep them at bay. That's maybe the most impressive bench performance in a small sample in a game that I've seen all year from KU, because what could have gone terribly wrong actually ended up being a strength. And in the final 13 minutes of the game, on the road in Stillwater, the deficit was never smaller than 7 points. That is a really strong performance and a tough place to win. KU's playing its best basketball right now. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Scoring 87 in Stillwater is an eyebrow raiser.
Yep.
And it's not that they shot the hell out of it. Like, if you told me they scored 87 points, I would have thought, oh, God, they probably made 12, 13 threes. Now, 8 of 22 from downtown. That's a decent night, but it's not like world beating. In fact, Oklahoma State shot a better percentage, made as many threes on 5 fewer attempts. They were 47% from deep. John Michael Wright looked like the best shooter in America.
Yeah, he did.
For a stretch. But what really impressed me about Kansas in this game, the thing I thought was going to make it hard for them, is how well Oklahoma State defends the rim. And Kansas got a lot of easy baskets. Their ball movement was really crisp, and they ended up getting a lot of layups, a lot of shots close to the basket. Oklahoma State only had 2 block shots the whole night.
And with, as we pointed out yesterday, as you pointed out yesterday, truly elite rim protection with Moussa Cisse.
They're still top 10 team in the country in defense in KenPom after they allowed 87 points last night. Like, they are outstanding, particularly in the paint. But KU shot 54%, and a lot of those were around the basket. They did KJ Adams, 6 of 9 from the field. Kevin McCullough, a lot of his offense was close around the rim.
KJ hit 2 jumpers. Now, they weren't from 15 feet. They were from inside the paint, but he hit 2 jumpers in the game.
No, I just thought offensively they were really in sync, and they got really good looks. They didn't have a lot of possessions where you watch them and said, oh, they got forced into that shot, or, oh, that's a bad shot. That's a bad trip down the floor. They were very composed. They moved the ball really well. They had a good game plan, and they got good shots against a team that's really hard to get easy shots against and make easy shots against. So that's the thing that really stands out for me. If you score 87 against a team that good on defense, you can score on anybody.
Yeah, and I don't think Oklahoma State in general played that poorly. They obviously had those defensive lapses, but man, I just thought that was a whale of a game for KU. By the way, the stats to back up the point you just made, not that all of the shots from 2-point range are layups or at the rim. KU shot 63% or 62.8% on 2-pointers in the game. 36+% from 3, 63% from 2. KU has kind of turned into this team that likes to score inside. They focus on paint touches like you think, well, yeah, that's a Bill Self team, but they've sort of gone through this transformation over time from 2 bigs to the 4-out lineup. Now they're so good on the interior over the last couple of games with guards. Their guards are getting to the basket. They're moving the ball extremely well. How about this? 26 assists on 35 field goals. That's really good. I don't know exactly what percentage that is. That would be 74% of their field goals for the game were assisted on. That's phenomenal. That's incredible ball movement. And you had some great numbers. I mean, DeJuan Harris had 9 assists. Kevin McCullough had 8. 3 more for Grady Dick. A couple for Jalen Wilson. They just moved the ball extremely well. And this is kind of the ideal version of KU that we were hoping to see this year, right? Is that they're defending pretty well. they're getting something off the bench. They don't need anything great. They ended up, and I've got the numbers in front of me
12
here.
bench points.
Yeah, 12 bench points, 43 combined minutes off the bench. And they needed those minutes because Adams got in foul trouble, Wilson got in foul trouble, and then even off the bench, Uday got in foul trouble. In fact, his last foul was a bad one. He's only a freshman.
Yeah,
you can understand it.
He's got some learning to do. He's like a puppy with really big paws.
Yeah,
that sometimes doesn't know that those paws can do some more damage than he intends.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment wholeheartedly. So there's obviously a lot of positives to take away from that KU game. Now you get the game of the year in the Big 12. KU hosting Baylor, rematch. Baylor won in Waco, 6 points earlier in the year at the end of KU's 3-game losing streak right before the Big 12 SEC Challenge. That is an absolutely monster game. The most important thing going into that game, we can talk strategy on Friday going into it. We can talk about all these other things, what you have to do, how well Baylor's playing, all of that. KU needs DeJuan Harris and Kevin McCullough to be as healthy as possible because that guard play for Baylor, when you look at Flagler and how well he's playing, Keontae George, LJ Cryer, all these dudes for Baylor who can score outside in at the guard positions. If you don't have your two best defenders, you're toast. You are screwed in that game. Those two have to be as healthy as possible. That's concern number one right now. It sounds like they'll be okay, but don't have them practice. Just rest up, ice up, because KU's going to need those guys badly. That should be a blast, though. I'm so excited for Saturday.
It's kind of fun that the Big 12 has essentially come down, and maybe this is disrespectful to Iowa State, who I think is probably going to beat the shorthanded TCU team tonight.
Yeah.
And if they do, they'll only be a game back still. But feels like we're down to a round robin between the three teams with 4 losses, where Texas, Baylor, and Kansas all play each other, and each team has a home game and a road game in the stretch. As Texas gets, they go, you've got KU Baylor Saturday, and the Saturday after that, you've got Texas at Baylor, and then you got let me look. That's the Baylor schedule, and then so Texas then hosts KU, and I think that might be the last Saturday.
Yeah, that's the final game of the year.
Yeah, final game of the year is that's the last Saturday is Texas hosting Kansas, and that might be the title game right then and there, as it turns out. But yeah, if one of those teams goes 2-0 in that round robin, they'll probably win the league outright.
That's insane to think about. It really is. It has been. I know everyone for years now has said, "Oh, the Big 12 is the best league. It's the best it's ever been." This really is the best it's ever been, and those three teams at the top are so freaking good.
Yeah, they are.
Texas is awesome. We know Baylor's awesome, and KU, as much as we I think can be both overly positive about them because we cover them and me specifically recognize my own biases there, but can also be overly critical because we are so close to the situation. They're playing phenomenal basketball right now. That is a tough place to win. Oklahoma State had won 5 in a row. They were the second hottest team or the hottest team in the conference. That's a really, really good win for KU heading into Saturday's massive matchup with Baylor. Obviously, we'll talk more about that game coming up tomorrow with CJ Moore of The Athletic for the Big 12 Basketball Breakdown, and we'll get our preview and picks for those games coming up on Friday as well. Right now, though, we've got another commercial break to get to. We've got some college basketball best bets coming up next segment here on 580 Sports Talk. Some Big 12 basketball on the slate tonight if you're interested in watching some college hoops. Although, Dan, you mentioned it earlier, TCU, Iowa State losing a little luster because it looks like both of TCU's best players, or two of their best players, not going to be able to go.
Eddie Lampkin has been ruled out. The school made that official that Eddie Lampkin's not going to go. That's 2 straight games he missed after he tried to play against Kansas State last week. And Mike Miles on Twitter said he wasn't going to play tonight, or essentially said, I'll be back when I'm good and ready, which the implication is that that might not be tonight. We don't have official word yet on Miles, but that's as close as you're going to get, I think. I would be very surprised if he played tonight. Damian Baugh's banged up for TCU as well. So that's just a beat-up team going into Hilton, where Iowa State has, with the exception of their home loss Saturday to Oklahoma State, been just wrecking teams in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's a 5.5-point spread. That moved from this morning. I think it opened at 4, and it's moved 1.5 to 5.5. So the expectation being that TCU is not going to be healthy and that Iowa State's going to take care of business. I am inclined to agree with that, and I'm inclined to lay the 5.5 points.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Do you have any other best bets for tonight?
Tennessee, Alabama is the big game tonight. Number 1 versus number 10. That game is in Knoxville. I have no idea who's going to win. Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite going in, which seems wild against the number 1 team in the country. But Tennessee's team total is 75.5, and nobody scored 70 against the Crimson Tide in SEC play this year. So I like the under 75.5 for Tennessee's team total.
I've got Tennessee covering this game. I got this morning at 2.5 for Tennessee. That line has continued to move. I like Tennessee in this game. Feels like a letdown spot for Alabama. A lot of the pros are all over Tennessee in this game. So I'm going to go with the Volunteers at home. And if Alabama beats me, well, I'm not going to feel all that bad. They're the number 1 team in the country. So I'm on that game as well. Also, it's
yes, America East basketball.
It's Wednesday night. That means it's America East night.
Oh my God.
I am so excited. Who do we want to go with for this game? All right, we're going to go with UMBC. Yes, we all remember UMBC, the Retrievers.
We love them forever.
We've got a battle of dogs, actually, in upstate New York tonight.
The Great Danes.
They are taking on the Danes of Albany. Albany this year, here's a fun fact for you, are playing at the community college in Albany. They play in like an all-purpose facility. I think something is going on with their actual home court. So that's where they're playing this game tonight. A Division I game all season being played at what Albany describes as their home away from home. UMBC is 17-10 this year. Albany is 6-21. It's only a 6.5-point spread. Someplace it was 7. Give me the Retrievers in that one on the road. I don't think home court advantage means a whole lot in the America East, to be completely honest with you. It is a very chalky league up to this point.
I got an NBA prop for you tonight if you're interested.
I would love that.
Dallas at Denver tonight. Final game before the All-Star break for the number 1 seed in the West. When the Nuggets don't have Jamal Murray, as will be the case tonight, Nikola Jokic likes to score. There will be times in games where Jokic tells his teammates, hey, you guys do it tonight. I'm just going to go 17, 13, and 12 and post a double-double. But on nights when Murray's not around, Jokic is a little more offense forward.
Yeah.
And Dallas doesn't have anybody who can guard him. I like Jokic over 26.5 points tonight.
You could have probably stopped before him. Dallas can't really guard anyone.
And they're likely without Kyrie Irving tonight. It sounds like he's questionable. His props are still playable at FanDuel, but I would doubt Irving plays. Again, for a lot of teams, tonight's their last bit of action before All-Star weekend.
Yeah, that's I didn't even realize that the All-Star game was this Sunday until last night, maybe Monday night, maybe.
Buddy, the turn up is in Salt Lake City. Did you see the lineup for this year's dunk contest?
Yeah, it's a bunch of G Leaguers.
Yes, it's revolting.
It's Mac McClung was literally in the G League until this week.
Mac McClung, real person,
former Texas Tech Red Raider.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I spent 1 year with Beard at Texas Tech.
Yeah, he did.
Man, they got so many transfers for a couple of years. They were like transfer you for a while. Just can the dunk contest, man. Give it 3 or 4 years. It'll come back. People say, oh, man, remember when this was sick? Get an actual NBA player in it.
We need because that happened when Brent Barry won it in like 1996.
Mhm.
It was like, hey, we need to sunset this.
Yeah.
And then they did for a few years. Then when we brought it back, it was Vince Carter time. And
Yeah,
maybe we need to do that.
that's okay. I would love it if they had like 3 events and they rotated through them. Like the 3-point contest, that's just literally watching any game now. Like every team shoots a million threes.
Right.
Like just rotate through the events every couple years, like a 2-year cycle or something. I can get down with that. Dunk contest kind of played out.
Yeah.
And also Mac McClung is in it. We'll get to the final word next on 580 Sports Talk. We've got to get to a real quick final word before we send you to pregame coverage for K-State women's basketball. Dan, you're up first.
Travis Kelce is the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. What a speech. What a way to round out the NFL season. The championship parade is kind of the valedictory at the end of a successful year, and the Chiefs went out in style and also went out very, very drunk.
Really made him say, He really did make them say, Final word for me, the Kansas Jayhawks are playing their best basketball of the year. Last night was a beautiful, gorgeous way to win over a tough team and a tough place to play down in Stillwater. Now, rest up. You got the biggest game of the year in the Big 12 coming up on Saturday against Baylor. Cannot wait for it. I'll celebrate last night's win for just a little bit longer. We'll talk more about that tomorrow with CJ Moore of The Athletic. Rick Peterson and Mitch Holthus will also join us. That's all coming up tomorrow from 3 until 6. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk. K-State women's basketball is next.